Okay, looks like we're live. What's up, everybody?
Hello.
Hey everybody.
I hope you're all doing well today. I upgraded my internet, so that's a bit of good
Yay.
news. Hopefully, I don't sound like a robot anymore, but do let me know if that does happen. All of you guys in the chat, I will be monitoring the chat as best as I can. But today we're here with Siren, Janine, and Millennial Prepster. So far, there might be some other people coming. I'm not sure. And we're just gonna talk some shit about, well, as you see in the title, these ongoing diet wars, carnivore versus vegan, and how that's impacting free speech, if at all, right? So, how are you guys doing? See, Siren, Janine, how's the raw milk cure coming?
So I just drank a quart of raw milk for breakfast.
Oh
This
yeah,
is the best, the easiest so-called detox diet you can ever imagine.
and that's all you're having right now is dairy
No,
or just milk?
yeah, raw dairy. So I obviously modified it. I added raw cheese, raw yogurt, and raw kefir because I get this as part of my job. This is part of my pay. I work for food. So my farmer gives this to me and I can't let this stuff go to waste. And so obviously, so I'm eating the raw cheese, the raw yogurt, mostly raw milk, and then raw kefir. So, and I also am eating liver at night because you guys seen my face in the winter. Okay, and I'm afraid to not have that liver, you know.
Totally. I was just gonna ask you because this is kind of on topic before we move on. Do you watch Mike Heal Your Gut Guy?
Mike Heal Your Gut Guy, did you say?
Yeah.
No, I think somebody suggested that to me to watch.
Well, he
No,
made a video. Maybe I'll, if I remember, I'll link it in the description later on. But he made a video talking about probiotic foods, and one point that I found interesting that he made about raw milk is that, and I don't know if this applies to you because you get it directly from the farmer, but a lot of the or all of the raw milk that you get from the store is flash chilled, which tends to kill. It's not quite as bad as pasteurized milk, but it does tend to kill a lot of the good bacteria in the milk. So I was just gonna say, hey, if you're getting your milk from the farmer, it might be best to get it like warm. You know what I mean? Straight from the
our
from the
milk
udder.
is warm that morning. Within hours, that milk is warm from the cow before I deliver.
Oh, that's awesome because
It's
you're
the
getting
best
like
milk.
yeah. And then this is the thing for people interested in raw milk. You know, people might be making all these claims about raw milk, and then you're trying it yourself, and it's not working for you. That could be the reason why, because even though it is raw, i.e., not pasteurized, because it is flash chilled, and that means they bring the temperature down very quickly and very, very low. That will kill a lot of the beneficial bacteria that's in the raw milk. So if you have the opportunity to get it like straight from the udder, literally, that's probably the best kind of
Literally.
milk you can get. Anyway, I'm gonna turn over to Millennial. How are the rabbits, my man?
Oh, they're doing good. Just had another litter. I have this litter that'll be ready to either go to sell or slaughter 1st of March. Yeah, these little guys are keeping me busy. Not really busy. They're pretty. I mean, they're keeping me busy because I like to play with them and interact with them, and the wife obviously loves it too. But they're doing good, and I know a couple of you guys, you two especially, made asked to do kind of a math, kind of bunny math video. So I definitely plan to do that. And I got to thank both you guys for, I've gotten some people that have came to me saying that you guys had, kind of recommended it or kind of sent them my way. So I definitely appreciate that. Had some good conversations with some people, and especially because I know majority of your guys' audience are not. Don't consume as many plants as I do because like I said, I consume probably about a 70-30 ratio, but the animal products I do consume are either I raise them myself or they're local. So I definitely appreciate that. But yeah, the rabbits are doing great.
But what you're doing is, quote, saving the earth. You're doing a hell of a lot more than the vegan YouTubers are out there.
Yeah, well,
you're
for me,
teaching people how to live off their lands and how to live a sustainable life by starting with your own home. And that's
exactly.
a great point you made to me. It's so silly. I never even realized that myself. when you said, when I was trying to explain to somebody how where I get my meat and where I get everything within my neighborhood pretty much. And you were just like, wow, you're doing a lot more than like what vegans are doing. And that's how it starts. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like just by living by example, by showing that you can do it yourself. It starts with your own home. If everybody starts making one change, to their own home to live a more sustainable life, and then that will lead to another thing. You get more interested. And that's how we save the earth, quote unquote, save the earth. You know what I mean? With sustainability.
No, absolutely. And sustainability is huge. And I think for this, what we're going to talk about today, I'm probably going to have some viewpoints that are very, contrary to probably what most people that are probably here watching believe. But it comes out of my vested interest in sustainability. And I think there are some reasonable and good solutions. But, overall, you're right. For me, it's just one step at a time. And when, like I have friends and family and I have people that have got to know me, they look at what I do, and, they're like, why don't more people do this? And I'm like, because it requires you to be a doer, which most vegans are not.
Be a doer. Yep.
Exactly.
Get your hands dirty.
And, I think that's why somebody like me and Carnival get along so well, because we are doers. He's up in the morning just like I am, taking care of animals, taking care of our homestead. Yeah, just like you, taking care of our families.
I got pets, though. I got a bunch of critters, like literally rescue critters that have been abandoned in parks, hanging on a door in a bag. That I'm the type that takes those animals in, and
that's great. And it's great. It's funny because that's the kind of people we are, and then the people that are against us, like what you've already mentioned, Siren, are these millennial men that are hipsters that buy their food from buy their pesticide grown food from the grocery store, that are behind the keyboard telling you how to live your life and what your body's all about. So that's neither here nor there. But
the questions they always ask me, which is where I didn't have any answers, and I'll tell them I don't have all the answers. They say, well, how are you going to feed New York City? How are you going to feed the whole world? And that's when you made that point to me. It starts at home.
It's doable.
You can't look at it on a whole worldly scale. How are we going to save the earth? How are we going to feed the whole earth? You concern yourself with your own home and your neighbors, and that's how it branches out, and that's how you feed the earth and save your earth. No importing, exporting unless absolutely necessary.
No, I talked to a master, I'll make this quick. I talked to a supposed vegan master gardener. Personally, never met one besides, I've actually really never met one. John Clore with Going Greens, he's a vegan, but he would absolutely say nothing about carnists. But anyway, so I talked to a supposed master gardener online, and we're going back and forth. And I asked him, and I just straight up asked him a couple gardening questions. Yeah, guy's not a gardener, because like if you look at aquaponics, that's saving Africa right now. It's literally saving Africa. So this idea that sustainable growing, incorporating animals isn't sustainable, it's a complete misnomer. But I'll send it back to Carnival and we'll get started.
Yeah, sorry, Carnival. We're getting off the top of your original.
Oh, no. I get excited to be here, man.
No, it's all good.
It's my favorite subject.
I got a little bit beat up on Tristan's stream last night. My voice mostly. Anyway, it was a long and painful stream.
I heard about 5 minutes. I was walking the dogs, and maybe about 10 minutes of it I heard.
Yeah, but the only point I want to make is that I might not be very talkative today. I'm kind of worn out by that whole thing. Glad I did it. I'm glad it happened. But moving on, what we want to talk about today is the takedown. And as some of you probably already know, Vegan Gains has been reinstated by YouTube after making his apology video. Immediately thereafter, he was back like magic. Yeah. And I have to say, personally, it was kind of a bittersweet thing. Like, I don't like the guy. I'm not gonna, sugarcoat the shit. I think he's awful. I think he's a liar. Blah blah blah. However, I don't know exactly what went down, what sort of transgressions he committed, but it really, with the way things have been going, how people have been getting deplatformed and censored for the things that they say, not so much the things that they do. I just kind of assumed that it's a free speech issue, and if not, I think it's worthy of talking about this and expressing ourselves. So if either one of you guys has something to add,
Siren, I'll let you guys kind of speak, and then I'll come in with really harsh harsh words everyone's going to hate, and then we can have a little rebuttal, I guess. So go ahead, Siren, take it away.
I would like to say that I am actually very pleased that he got his channel back. I was delighted. And I saw his apology video on Jasmine's channel, and I'm the type of person, I give people the benefit of the doubt. He's a kid. I think he was severely humbled and thrown off his high horse when he got his channel taken down. And I accept his apology, like I really do. And I think that this is going to be ridiculous, but my main fear with this censorship bullshit is YouTube is going to be boring, and then I'm going to have to leave. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to have a politically correct social justice warrior censorship YouTube, because that is extremely unappealing to me. I won't even watch it, and I'll leave. You know, I just don't want it to be boring. Aside from the whole free speech rights and whatever thing, you know. So that's pretty much what I have to say about that.
Do you know any details as to like why he was taken down? I haven't followed the saga very, very closely, so let us know.
He showed, okay, so it's out there. So I saw the video where he described in detail, he showed all of his emails from YouTube, and I've gotten a video taken down too, so this is the exact like emails that they send, where it pointed out specifically which videos got him removed, and guess what? None of them were the stomping babies, none of them was the knife threatening and all that stuff. It was the most ridiculous bullshit. The reason why he got these videos taken down, and it was from like 3 years ago, and he got rid of all like the stomping baby stuff and all that stuff, but that's not even what got him taken down, which leads me to believe, okay, so YouTube, what they did to me is they take your video down, investigate later. So if you get flagged, they take it down first, investigate later. Well, after your appeal, of course, you have to appeal and write this whole story and go back and forth. So that's what looked like happened to him. Video taken down first, appeal later, investigate later.
So what was it? Did he just use some words YouTube didn't like? Or?
Oh yes. Okay. So it was mass flagging. He suggested it was mass flagging, and also it came out later. Like other YouTubers, I honestly don't remember who it was describing how it turned out to be mass flagging, and which is
like a coordinated attack by
it's bullying. It's like total like revenge mass flagging. It's not fair. And this is where YouTube is flawed, where they're going to, I think they should see mass flagging as a red flag, honestly. Yeah. YouTube should see mass flagging as a red flag that somebody is wanting revenge. And okay, so what it was he was talking about this one, I don't know if it was a vegan or meat eater guy, I don't know, some bodybuilder, and he was talking about his bodybuilding skills and all that stuff in the video, one of the videos that got taken down. And then it said in the video, because of just his sense of humor, he had mentioned that this guy in particular likes to be dominated by women, and he just said some stupid shit. And he said the whole video was very positive towards the guy, except for that one thing the guy didn't like. So the guy flagged him on that. And then there was some other things where there was mass flagging.
I see.
If I understand it.
That's what he says.
Well, there were some other YouTubers that did a much more thorough investigation on it and made video. Honestly, I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was, and said it was mass flagging. That doesn't mean it's true, but that's what makes sense to me, especially after I saw the threats on vegan channel Michelle Lowe's, hi Michelle, channel from, I don't know if I should mention his name. I want to stay away from the negativity. I was almost regretting putting up that video I made, but I swore to myself to stay away from the negativity. I don't want to perpetuate that bad energy,
Okay. Yeah, whatever's clever.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean, go ahead, man. What do you think?
So I love the fact that I don't have to get trigger warnings on this thing, because you guys are so awesome. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that I don't believe this is a freedom of speech issue at all. With that being said, YouTube obviously do have problems. Obviously, their matrices are purposefully misleading. And it's obvious that, YouTube's been weaponized through their very broad, guidelines, domain guidelines. There's no doubt about that. But as far as I don't necessarily believe this was a massive flagging operation, because if you were to go to, let's say, the Young Turks or CNN, and you were to massively flag anything on their channel, they're not getting taken down. I'm telling you right now, that's not a thing.
Great point.
That's not going to happen. Okay, so we have to be very, very honest, because if we're stating that this is just something that is going to be controlled by a bot that basically states if enough people flag, you could have 20 million people flag the Young Turks or CNN or Don Lemon's channel, for Christ's sakes. He's not getting taken down. That shit's not going to happen. Excuse my French.
Yeah,
so with that being said, it's very important that we be very, in my honest opinion, genuine about what was going on. From what I've gathered from the research I've done, there was a YouTuber by the name of Repizon or whatever his name is, and Vegan Gains did make death threats to him. And that was posted, and that was something that was kept on. The video was not deleted. Now, with Vegan Gains as a person, I'm in the camp where, yeah, he said a lot of ridiculous things. And like I said, I will support him as much as I would support a Nazi or a white supremacist or somebody that says horrible things. Yes, it's his right to say it, but am I going to go to bat for him? Am I going to go to a civil tort private company and say, hey, I want you to reinstate this guy because freedom of speech? That's where I kind of differ, and I differ because of sustainability. In my experience, YouTube is kind of like a library, right? There are a lot of content, there's a lot of resources, there's a lot of tools, there's study halls, there's places where groups can go, but it's very archaic in the respect of, at the end of the day, if you have one librarian or one employee that doesn't like you, they're going to use the full force of public utility to get rid of you, right? And I think that's something that we have to realize. Me personally, before I had the channel, I had a very successful sustainability channel when it comes to RVing, like off-grid RVing and stuff. And I can tell you, I was never big as Vegan Gains, but people started to recognize me different places that I went, and it was pretty cool. But I never had the issue with people. I've never had to delete a video for content. I never had to ever worry because it's understanding the game that's played. And with Vegan Gains, he was in a very unique portion. He got into YouTube back when the company was not advertising, but basically gave this false premise that they were all about say whatever you want. This is a public forum. And I think a lot of people kind of fell into that. A lot of people think that YouTube a lot of people think that YouTube is a public right of way, right? It's something that should be available to everybody. When in reality, it is a private business, it is a private organization that, it's the way I like to, because I've, based upon, some of the work experience that I have, without getting into too much detail, you have a lot of people that will be at an event and they will say, I have every right to be here. This is open to the public. Yeah, it's open to the public, but it is on private property and it is controlled by a private entity. There is no, there is no government ensuring that this event is happening. So if this person, is trespassing you, they want you to leave, you're going to have a hard time convincing a police officer that you have every public right to be there. You have every public right to be there until somebody that is, controlling the domain has no problem for you being there. And that's not interrupting your freedom of speech or your freedom of travel or whatever. You're free to talk, you're free to travel, but get back on that public right of way that's paid for by taxpayer dollars, right? And so, I know that's going to offend a lot of people. I have a question. Yes, ma'am.
Going back to the channel Respizon, how do you say it? Reptilion.
Yeah.
What is the channel that Vegan Gains had a beef with?
Yes.
That's not one. I'm pretty sure that's not one of the videos that he showed all 3 strikes. That's not one of the videos that they strike. They were all just like random videos that had nothing to do with anything except for a couple of, like calling the guy, dominated by women.
I understand what you're saying. And here's another thing I want you to think about too. I'm from the information I got is from the videos that they did back and forth a couple years ago and from his latest apology video. See, and I don't want to sound like this guy, but when it comes to Vegan Gains telling the truth, he can show you whatever the fuck he wants to show you. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to take that. I'm not going to take that for Bible. I'm sure he did get 3 strikes, and I know that there are matrices, but I know of people that have gotten more than 3 strikes that didn't get their YouTube channel taken down.
Really?
So like I said, this is a very quasi. You know, this is a very YouTube does what they want to do.
And why would they want to get rid of him? And why is he back? Like he's back. Obviously,
yeah, absolutely. I couldn't tell you why. I don't think that YouTube has this overall vendetta against vegan gains. But I think if you are coming from the social justice mindset and you are a real person sitting in a headquarters somewhere in Silicon Valley, and you're being told to look at this data and to congregate, you're getting information from what this algorithm is putting out, and as a content provider, they have a unique obligation to look at that and be like you said, we're going to ask questions later. We're going to ban it. Obviously, he was reinstated, but I think if you're a person that has no idea about what we're talking about, and you see a guy and you see previous content bans in the past, the idea that once a problem gets solved, that there's no history and there's no metadata of previous issues is a huge, big misnomer. We saw that very blatantly clear when YouTube and Google and everybody went to I don't know if you watched the congressional discussion that they had where they were subpoenaed, but it's very clear that the metadata they keep on people stays around forever, right? So like I said, I think that this was calculated in the aspect that a lot of people didn't like them, but I don't think Vegan Gains did himself any favors. Like if somebody mass flagged my channel, I totally expect that somebody would stop it or whatever, but am I at all worried about being banned? No, because I understand my demeanor and content. At the end of the day, I think it's important, and I'll kind of leave it with this, and I'll be open for the bashing by everybody. I'm joking, but I do want to make one point, and I want to say that it's extremely important that we look at it from a very holistic point of view. And this is all I'm trying to say, and this is basically the big portion of what this whole thing means to me, okay? And I know it's, like I said, I know it's going to be controversial, but at the end of the day, we're not looking at a free speech violation because YouTube is not a private entity. And I'm not saying you guys are wrong about censorship, because you guys are absolutely correct about censorship. What I'm saying is YouTube is not a government agency. It's a private industry, and it's every right to give money, airtime, and things to whoever it chooses. YouTube's not taking his freedoms away. They're just not giving him a free platform to which he can give his opinion and paying him for it. So we have to be very, because he's monetized. So we have to be very clear on that.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Sounds like you're saying that because it's a private entity, they have the right to shut him down, basically take away his platform.
Absolutely.
Now, but what you're saying, because of the fact that every single inch of this planet is owned by a private entity, whether it's geographically speaking or the internet, what you're saying is that free speech is not a right, period. It's a privilege that corporations or private owners or corporations give to us, because every single inch of this planet is owned by somebody. So what you're saying is that any municipality can take away your right to go out in the street and speak. They can shut you down for saying anything because everything is private property. So I don't think that's where we should draw the line, because that means there's no free speech, because there isn't an inch of this planet that isn't owned by a private entity. So maybe I'm not understanding something. Maybe there's like
sure. I can give you another great example. And you're right.
Hold on one second. Go ahead. One more thing. And as far as what YouTube is, it's a privately owned.
Hello.
Forum.
Well, we lost you for a second. Say it again.
Can you hear me okay?
Now we can.
Yeah. YouTube is, yes, it's a private corporation. There's private ownership there, but it's a public corporation. And it is, whereas like something like a business, I might agree with you that you can't just go into a business and yell and scream whatever the hell you want, like a restaurant or something. I could agree with you there. But because YouTube is exactly the type of platform where people speak and express themselves, and it was created by the public, it's financed by the public, I have to push back against that, because
that's great. I want you to.
So let me understand is it really the fact that it's privately owned? Because if that's the case, doesn't that mean that the whole world is, because it is privately owned, there really is no freedom of speech anywhere?
Right. So when people hear, like, let's take the U.S. for example, you have just blatant Constitution, United States of America, and for any of the people that are viewers that have, you know, law enforcement experience or have kind of, you know, attorney, lawyer type experience, please have them fact check me. Not saying that I'm an expert, but like I said, based upon, you know, my current profession, I have a kind of a unique way to look at it. So let's kind of look at a couple things that people might say, like freedom to, you know, you're impeding my freedom to travel when you're talking about sovereign citizens, saying that, you know, I'm allowed to get on an airplane, or I'm allowed to get on a train, or I'm allowed to drive in a public right of way because of X, Y, and Z, right? So the way we look at the law, essentially in the United States of America, and I'm sure it's probably similar for other places, is based upon previous case law, right? So for example, let's take a train. If you want to get on a train and you're saying that's your freedom of travel, if you get there and you make Amtrak or Union Pacific or insert random train company, you make them nervous, the conductor has the ultimate authority to say, this person is not getting on my train. Now that person can say, you're violating my freedom of movement, but at the end of the day, that's a private company. You're free to get back on a public right of way that's paid for by taxpayer money, and you're free to walk. You're free to walk on someone else's property until they tell you no. Take Walmart, for example, or take another big box store. You can go, it's public. You can go in there and you can buy things, but depending on what state you're in, there's case law that says if they want to stop you and look at your receipt, they can do that. And obviously that gets convoluted based upon membership, but there are certain states that state that if somebody wants to stop you because it's their private business, even though you made a voluntary transaction with them, if before you leave the store, they want somebody to come and stop you in order to verify that receipt, they have every right to do that. So yes, so when you're talking about how convoluted things can get, you're 110% right. Based upon case law that's been set up previously, kind of determines what that private company is able and willing to do. And unfortunately, when you're looking at things like Walmart, Costco, YouTube, you're looking at these big entities that have a lot of followers. Whatever happens to Vegan Gains, yeah, they're more than willing to take that into a court of law with their lawyers in order to talk about, you know, the discrepancy of their censorship. And unfortunately, with Vegan Gains, he doesn't give himself a whole lot of leeway. In fact, he gives himself more room to hang himself with. So I think it's important when we're looking at this from a very realistic, holistic standpoint. Yes, you're right. The law can be convoluted. There can be a lot of gray area. But ultimately, when you're looking at, you know, what a private business is and what a private corporation is, if you want to say that all land is technically owned by corporate, yeah, I'm sure there's a pretty good statement to be made there. But what freedom of speech, especially in the U.S., is talking about is you are free to go and protest. And if you look at what's happening in Portland, Oregon, I mean, you're talking about Antifa, you know, you're talking about Antifa protesters that just put IEDs in the Eugene Police Department. They block traffic. They attack people, you know? So when you're talking about freedom of speech, what's tolerated in one city is not going to be tolerated in another city under the guise of what freedom of speech is. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It changes.
There's a difference there. What you're talking about is that we are being granted a privilege to speak freely by corporations that could take it away at any one point. What I'm saying is that we have this right as soon as we're born. No one gives us this right. We have the right to free speech. Now, we can argue whether that's true or not, but I don't think that's really imperative here, because if what you really are saying is that these corporations can take away our freedom of free speech and it's ethical, then that's your worldview. I just don't subscribe to that, because I think we have this right as soon as we're born. We can say, you know, and as far as like traveling on roads, I mean, that's not freedom of speech. You have the freedom to travel. You could go anywhere in the world that you want without a passport, without anything, so long as you provide your own transportation. If you own a plane, you could go anywhere in the world. If you have a boat, you don't need a passport. You could go anywhere you want. And maybe most people don't know this, but that is the truth. So your freedom to travel isn't limited.
Right, and I would just disagree with you, because YouTube is not going to go to Vegan Gains' house and says, you have no right to go outside and talk. What they're saying is, you can't come on my domain, which I pay money for, which is a free platform, that my engineers have created that I pay the bills for and say what you want. That's the difference. There's not that YouTube is not a government shill.
We pay the bills. We pay the bills watching their ads and, you know, going and purchasing the products. Like, YouTube could not exist without us. You don't think corporations have any responsibility to the people that?
No, they do. But like I said, name one free market enterprise that is not trying to get money from. That's the whole point of free markets. They're all trying to get money and business from the consumer. Walmart, Starbucks, for Christ's sakes. But yes, they have the right to say this is a private property and these are our rules of decorum. And to say that they don't have that right is really going to be trampling on, well, if you have a business, what are you allowed? In your home, what do you allow? You know? Like,
yeah, but this isn't YouTube's home. YouTube is just providing a platform. It's renting out space to a whole bunch of different people. So it's not exactly, if I'm going into YouTube headquarters and, you know, screaming and shouting, whatever, shooting people like that crazy vegan, obviously that's not cool. But when everybody is given a little parcel, if they so choose, here in YouTube, and that is their public platform. So it's virtual reality. It's not like we're trampling on YouTube's, you know, like going into your home. That's completely different, because that's your physical safe space, if you will. This is a public space, just like, you know, a town square is a public space, and your freedom of speech should be respected there. But what, to me, it sounds like what you're saying is that any city corporation can take away your right to say anything anywhere at any point in time, because they own that particular piece of land, even though it's considered public land, not anybody's private home. They still own it, even though it's public. But what you're saying, which is how I look at YouTube, I look at YouTube as the town square where a town crier would go out and say something to the people. You know what I mean? Where people would go out and protest. Go ahead, Janine.
People don't go out in the streets anymore. It's so rare to go out in the streets and protest. That was now in this age of high technology, where everything is protested and talked about and discussed and everything online. If they own everything online and everything's private, then there's no free speech at all. I can see where I understand both sides, but bringing up Starbucks, as you guys did, Starbucks really showed who owns who is owned by who, by when that whole Starbucks debacle, when they were kicking those guys out for not purchasing, and Starbucks had to shut down for an entire day to retrain because of the public outcry. That was their rule. You don't purchase, you don't use the bathroom, or whatever that situation was. And they changed their rule with public outcry because the public was mad, you know, and was boycotting and stuff like that. So they changed their whole rule. And what I'm saying is, if the people speak out against it and protest it and boycott it, and they can change the rules. So you have to have a voice. You know what I'm saying?
No, and I think that's important. I think that's exactly why we can't treat it like it is a government entity, because you think a government entity cares about public outcry necessarily. I mean, just look at Donald Trump with how many people dislike him, but you're not going to see that change. Look what's going on with Florida. Let's look what's going on in California with the censorship.
Wait, what's going on with Florida? I don't have.
Well, just remember what I told you about the Florida State Supreme Court says they're not even going to look at people's rights to grow food. So yeah, I think the fact that it is private, yes, if enough people get upset at YouTube, things will change, and I think you're starting to see that happen. But like I said, I believe absolutely that you have the right of freedom of speech. Now, the problem is, you can say, well, you consider YouTube to be public. And yes, you can consider it to be a public utility. You can consider it to be public by every stretch of way that you can articulate that. But if you look at case law, if you look at them from a civil standpoint, if you look at it from a criminal point of view, you have no legal leg to stand on. Now, you can feel that it is, and I respect that, but in a court of law, in a court of appeals, even in civil torts, it's just, that's not the case.
So if a court says that you can't keep rabbits, you're going to agree with that?
I'm not going to say I agree with it, but I now have a decision to make.
Don't mess with his rabbits, Carneval.
No, but I mean, it's fine. That's a good point, and that's something that I thought about before I looked. And my state absolutely has no laws against it. The only law that it has is If you're going to sell the meat and it's not for personal consumption, then there is a one-step inspection that not even inspection. There's a facility that you have to go to in order to do the processing. But yes, I have to realize that any decision I make, especially in regards to my family and sustainability, I have to realize if I make a decision, there's going to be consequences whether I agree with it or not. And unfortunately, that's the world that we live in. And I'm not saying it's right. What I'm saying is, you know, I wish more people understood what we understand and put more action to it. But as far as this, like, I think it's crazy the fact that if you look at the amount of time and effort that it takes to make YouTube content, and I know it takes a lot. It takes hours. But the fact that these people are upset and they're making videos about vegan gains, that energy could be better put doing other things to make sure that YouTube doesn't have. I mean, every video they put on YouTube talking about YouTube makes YouTube, you know, it starts a conversation, and it doesn't hurt YouTube necessarily, right? So it's one of those things where you have to really look at how you're going about this. And these companies are smart. They don't care about this public opinion. They only care when it hurts. They only care when they have pen to paper, and now they have to take their infrastructure and look at it from a legal standpoint of civil torts, criminal law, case law. And right now it's on their side. Unfortunately, they went to Congress. They went to
but what's legal isn't necessarily ethical. That's I don't.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I'm not saying you're
but it's like it sounds like you're saying that, well, whatever North Korea wants to do with their people, and I'm not saying that that's even true what we hear, but it sounds like you're saying that that's okay because it's lawful. So it just sounds like a might is right argument, and you know, I mean, that's a surefire way to tyranny. I mean,
no, might is not right, but might is realistic, and you have to figure out what that fight and what that battle's going to be. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, you have to figure out what the fight and what the battle that you're willing to go with. North Korea, you're absolutely right. That's horrible, and I can tell you that's ridiculous. But if you're going to ask me to give up what I have in order to liberate those people and give those people, if you want me to dedicate my life to those people, that's not a fight that I'm willing to give. And you can call me whatever you want for that. I'm not willing to die on that sword. And everybody has to find out what sword it is. You know,
no, I wasn't saying that at all. I
know. I'm just saying in general. I'm just being very realistic with what we're talking about.
I'm just interested in principles and theory of
right.
What's ethical, what isn't ethical. Whatever corporations have the legal right to do, that's just because it's lawful is what I'm saying. It isn't necessarily ethical, isn't necessarily right. But Janine wanted to say something, so
yeah, hot topics. So hot topics get people's attention. Vegan gains was a hot topic. It's quite boring to sit there and make a video about YouTube and specifically censorship. You have to insert some sort of hot topics. Display is everything to get people's attention. So that's why we were using vegan gains as an example to bring up the much larger issue of censorship. You know what I'm saying? It was a perfect example, in my opinion, you know? So that's why, you know, it's not, I don't think it's unnecessary to bring up vegan gains. I don't think it's wasting our time because it definitely got a lot of people's attention.
Yeah, I mean, if someone feels that way, then they're just wasting their time being over here. So I don't understand that comment at all. But I do
have one question to ask both of you guys. I just want to ask you guys and see what you guys. So if you, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys probably do own a private company of some kind, but if you had a business, both
I do
in physical and in internet domain, what would you have any rules of decorum, and what would they be? And what would you be willing to do to somebody that has spouted what? Because if this is where I'm gonna get a lot of hate. If I had a domain, it'd be either one of two things: either everything went, which would probably not make a whole very successful outlet, or I would have a very, and this is what I want to talk about solutions. I'd have a very tapered domain. So is this one of the things where you believe we just let because if I had a tapered domain, like in my home, would I allow somebody like Vegan Gains to say what he wants to say? No. If I had a business and if I owned a business, not saying I do, but if I owned a business and somebody came into my business and was saying these things and it was making other customers that I care about feel uncomfortable, he would have been gone a long time ago. So I just want to know, what would your rules of decorum be?
Well, it depends on what the business is. If the business is the business of selling food and eating food, then that's what happens at the business. If the business is a platform for people to express themselves, then different rules apply, obviously.
That's true.
So
Like
go ahead.
I have a little small business, Siren's soap spa. I just make soap and natural bath and beauty products. Now, there's no problems here at all. Like there's no way for this to be destroyed by like censorship issues or anything like that. But what I'm saying is, if everything online is owned, Google, YouTube, Facebook, all that, this is how humans communicate these days on a mass scale. Where do we get our opportunity? What domain, and they're all private, do we get to express ourselves, without censorship? And of course, there's a line. You can't, there's a line.
Oh, I'm not saying that everybody should be entitled to say anything they want. Obviously, if you're threatening somebody, that's not cool. If you're trying to destroy their ability to make a living by, whatever, libel or stuff. But we already have laws that deal with that pretty well, I think. But insofar as just expressing your opinion on something, just saying this is my opinion, I'm not saying this is fact,
in context.
That's my question too, Janine. It's like, well, where do we go? The dark web, underground?
Where do we go? We don't go in the streets. In the 1950s, they went in the streets to protest. We don't do that anymore. You know what I'm saying? Or to have discussions,
But if we accept this ethical standard where, might is right and business rules, then that space doesn't exist anywhere, whether it's online or in the physical world. Anybody at any point can take away your right to say anything. It doesn't even have to be offensive, doesn't even have to be controversial. They could just tell you to shut up. And if you open your mouth, you could go to prison. That's essentially where this sort of ideology,
like the army.
Well, this is where it leads to, I think. I mean, I don't, but that's my question. Exactly what you said, Janine, is like, well, where can we, if free speech does exist, where does it exist?
Where's the free speech domain? Where's the free speech domain?
And so this is where I kind of want to come, because I'm not going to save myself, because I know I've said a lot of things, but I guess what would be the solution? because I know, because I'm very plugged into a lot of entities. Veganism is not the first, or diet is not the first thing on YouTube to be censored. If you're familiar with sustainability has been attacked way before Veganism has, gun channels have. So they've already came up with a solution. So I can show you what that solution is. And that's why I believe in the free market. And that's why I believe that YouTube has every right to be as ridiculous as they want, because the more ridiculous they are, the more they'll drive things away. Because I'll tell you right now, in the gun community, a lot of people, if you just look at YouTube, you would think that they don't exist. It's alive more now than it's ever been, and I can show you where these people have went. But what would you say your solution is
to the gun?
No, to this diet and censorship that we're seeing now.
Solution. I don't know. I think maybe like what Carneval was saying, the laws are already there. The threats and stuff that they need to take seriously. The laws are out there already within the government. Like YouTube. Like I said, YouTube is extremely flawed. They delete first. Maybe there needs to be a better system within YouTube. They delete first, investigate later. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that's it. The system is just so screwed up, and it's like it's willy-nilly. Like there's no rhyme or reason to it. You can get. My hot dog video got deleted, for God's sakes. I was feeding my kid a freaking hot dog, got deleted. Like and then Vegan Gains is threatening people. His got deleted. What's the difference? Like where's the rhyme or reason? This is what irritates me. Maybe it's the system. The YouTube grew so fast they don't have the system.
But this is exactly what I'm talking about. You can get taken down or be told to shut up simply because you exist. Like what kind of standard is that?
Right. And this is probably where I'm gonna get this video flagged. I think in the comment section, Ramen V support alternative. I think he hit the nail on the head, right? So this is how I look at it. I look at this like I look at the gay bakery situation. We can try to force this Christian organization to do what we want, and by a Christian, I mean we can force YouTube, the overlords, to try to make them do what we want, or we can support other platforms. Let me give you an example. If you've ever been to full30.com, if you want to know where the gun,
No.
where the YouTube equivalent for the tactical gun sustainability movement. Oh, it's there. I mean, you're talking about more videos.
Forums.
But there's a flaw. There's a flaw in your argument there, because we're not forcing YouTube to do anything. Well, YouTube, we already had freedom of speech on this platform. They're taking that away. The reason why this platform became what it became is because it had freedom of speech. Right. So this isn't like we're compelling YouTube to do something. We don't want to be compelled by them to do something. It's a completely different thing. So
they're changing the rules, and that's
so with the whole gay bakery thing, they were compelling a business to do something they never agreed to do in the first place. We already had a contract with YouTube as a populace that this is what we're doing, and now, yeah, they're changing the rules. We have the right to leave, but it's once YouTube becomes like the biggest public forum, I mean, the dynamic changes. This isn't some small mom and pop shop that you need to compel to bake your penis cake. Like, go somewhere else. You know what I mean?
No, I get what you're saying, but to say that they're not allowed to change their rules, I mean, who is allowed to change? When are they allowed to change their rules? You know what I mean? If they want to change it, like, what power do they have as a private business? That's what I'm saying. If you start regulating and using the government to tell them what they can and can't do, to me, that's way more dangerous than allowing the free market to take care of these situations.
I'm not telling them what they can and cannot do. I'm telling them not to tell me what I can and cannot do. We already have these certain rules established. Free speech is, for the most part, or at the very least, was respected. So let's continue to respect. We're not making anybody do anything. This is how it is.
Well, no, you're making them host your content.
No. They gave me an opportunity under the current laws or the way we understand what's ethical and what isn't. They gave me the opportunity to host my content. I'm not forcing them to do anything. This is a contract. This is a contractual relationship. They're benefiting from what I'm doing, and I'm benefiting from the platform that they're providing to me. But like, these rules already exist, whether they're written down or not or whatever. Like, I think we all agree that people have the right to freedom of speech. And if YouTube is the biggest platform in the world where you could express yourself, right? Exercise your freedom of speech for the largest amount of people in the world to hear or see what you have to say, then if we start censoring that, then, this isn't the same as...
Might as well just watch the news.
Yeah, this isn't the same as like a private bakery. You're compelling them to do something. I'm not compelling YouTube to do anything. These laws they're the ones changing the laws, compelling people. You know. So
I guess that's a difference of opinion, because, like I said, to me, they're not compelling anybody. It's like an insurance company that says, hey, under this new Obamacare regime, we have to change the way certain things are. We had a contractual relationship, but now things have changed, and this is what it's going to be. And these are our terms of service.
So what you're saying is, if they tell you that the law right now says that you have to murder your neighbor, and if you don't, we're going to kill you. I mean, like, this is ridiculous.
Well, no, and you're taking to the extreme, but yeah, would be what you would have to fall on
in order to explain the logical consequences of your moral standard or ethical standard or legal standard, in order to get you to, you have to turn up the signal to noise ratio in order for you to understand what logically leads from this sort of worldview. What logically is acceptable, if that's the worldview where a corporation can do anything they want simply because the space, whether it's online or out there in the world, if you're saying that because they own that space, they have the right to tell you what to say, then that means freedom of speech doesn't exist. We're still trying to figure out where this freedom of speech exists. I'm not saying freedom of speech existing insofar as it's your freedom. It's not a privilege that somebody is giving you for the time being before they change the rules. No. Freedom of speech is this omnipresent existing right that all of us have that cannot be changed by any rules. That's the whole point.
Right. And like I said, YouTube has the freedom to say, I don't want your speech on my domain. That's all I'm saying.
Don't we have the right to speak up, to speak our voice and try to change that? I mean, that's what we're doing, and that's what always happens.
Sure, but when you're depending on a private domain to host your content, that's where you know, that's where you kind of run into the problem.
It's not a private domain, though. YouTube is a public domain. Of course it is.
And
It's not a
I think
private
they're
domain.
shooting
It is a
themselves.
for all intents and purposes.
No. The servers are private. The cables, wires, Wi-Fi, all that equipment is private. But the domain is public because anybody is allowed. Anybody could come on here and watch videos. It's not like anybody could come into your home. That's a private space. This is a public space. Of course it is. And it's a publicly traded company. It's a public corporation. It's not a private corporation. It's a public corporation.
So in order to put content on YouTube, can you explain to me the process? How are you able to put content on? What do you have to do?
What do you mean?
I'm just saying, like, can you just, is there any way, because from what I understand, in order to put content on YouTube, you have to log in, they have to send you a confirmation, and there's a bunch, like especially with Google, you have to agree to a list of terms that none of us probably read in full totality. And that's what allows us to then input, like I said, input content. So while I agree, I understand with what you're saying, like I said, these companies are smart enough they have put in the safety parameters in effect to protect them from case law that says we have the right to censor what we deem on our domain. I get the fact that we feel like we should be able to do whatever we want on these domains, and I agree.
I didn't say that. I didn't say we should be able to do whatever we want to do.
What we feel we're allotted to. You know, I'm sure you feel that your content should be allowed, just like I do. I feel like I don't say anything to which I don't feel like I should be censored. I guess what I'm saying is I understand though that since it's a private organization in which they have 1,000 different rules that are very convoluted that I didn't read entirely when I set up my email account or my YouTube account. You know, I understand that they have a very convoluted, purposefully weaponized guidelines. And yet here I am still, you know, going through the steps and the motions of posting content on YouTube.
But your argument is right. That just
perfect. But they do have the right to say you are no longer allowed to put stuff on my server. That's all. But
you're talking about a legal right. I'm talking about is this ethical? Just because it's legal doesn't make it ethical. So that's not what I'm talking about. Like so are you saying that that's ethical for them to do because it's legal?
I think that ethical. Yeah, I like I said, it's not. To me, I think that it doesn't really matter because it's their like I said. If let's say I said I think rabbits are awesome, and they said you can't say that on YouTube. And as long as they're not coming to my house and telling me you can't say things in your house, you can't say things in the public right away. Yeah, and if somebody,
Millennial, what if you were to put up a video on how to slaughter your rabbits and what are the good parts to eat and how to do this and that, how to some recipes for your rabbits, and people are going to be horrified by this, vegans in particular, and they flag your channel and they get you striked. I mean, maybe then you'll feel the pain.
Sorry, guys. Just for a second. Excuse me. People are saying that there's some like humming noise in the background. I don't know what that is.
I don't hear anything.
Is it from my computer? My computer is winding up, but it's not that very loud.
Oh, yeah. I think it might be a fan. Well, I mean, if there's nothing you can do about it, then that's fine.
There's nothing I can do. Can they still hear like clearly?
No, we hear you just fine. It's just once in a while it sounds like a fridge or a fan or something like that.
It's not, my room is totally silent. My house is totally silent. The only thing is the very, very low winding of like a humming of my computer, like the fan. Yeah. It's the fan.
It's okay. There's nothing you can do about it. Continue, please.
Yeah. So I guess all I'm trying to say is, like, for example, if that were to happen, and let's say YouTube's like, we don't care about any of your stuff. Well, there are other alternatives that I've already in my mind. Like, I already know where I'm going to go. I already know where I'm going to take my alternative, and I'm okay with that. Because, like I said, to me, I look at YouTube like I look at any other business. If it comes to a point where, you know, I can't use it anymore, then I think it's time for more people to use different alternatives, and you know, we'll find that niche. But as far as like, I get where you're coming from in a grand scheme of things, but as far as like knowing state and local laws, like I don't know what entity is going to come to my house and say I don't have. If that were to happen, then I have to make a decision, obviously.
Well, now you're making you're differentiating between what's going to happen and what's okay to happen. Just because it won't necessarily happen to you, that doesn't mean that it won't happen to somebody else, because the standard that you're setting. Like, let me try to illustrate this.
Yes, please.
The municipality where you live owns the land on which you build your house. You don't own the land on which your house stands. You only own the house. So it's the same as, like, I don't own YouTube, but I own that little space within YouTube that is my channel. Now, obviously, there are certain rules I have to follow, and I accept that's going to happen always. However, what you're saying is, if you're saying that simply because YouTube is a private company that owns the little space that they rent out to you, what you're actually, and they can shut you up, what you're saying is that the municipality can come into your home legally, and I don't know if you think it's ethical, but legally they could come into your home, if this is the standard that we're setting, right, and they could kick you out, and you have to find a new house, even though you built this with your hands. You paid money to have this house, because
and this happens. Yeah. They bully you out. They want your house.
Yeah, because they own the land on which your house is built, and
they need to build a road.
It's legal. It's happening. It's legal. It doesn't happen to everybody, but it could potentially happen to anybody because it's legal. And to me, it sounds like you're okay with that. Or because if that's the standard you're setting, then you have to be okay with that. Otherwise, you're going to be inconsistent. But that's okay. If you think that that's okay, then that's okay. I can't tell you.
Right. Like I said, and it goes back to my initial question I have. Like, what should YouTube be allowed to censor? I don't think we really have a clear. Nobody's made a clear distinct, because somebody could take you to the very hardcore extreme and say, well, I have very hardcore viewpoints in which I think that if you don't follow my religious view, I can chop your head off. I'm not saying I'm doing it, but I'm saying that's what I'm saying I'm allowed to do. So somebody can even take what you're saying and take it to the very far. So at some point, like I said, in my opinion, that comes to decorum, because what we're talking about right now is just basic censorship. But what's to say that somebody with a radical extremist viewpoint can't take what you're saying and then
Okay, I have an answer for that. I think what Carneval made just a quick good point was, what are the laws of your town and your state and your country? Are you allowed to threaten and say you're going to chop people's heads off in your area? No. That they would take that as a serious threat. So that is the type of stuff that should be censored.
Yeah, free speech doesn't give you the right to threaten people. No.
So in this case, Vegan Gains was justified a long time ago to be banned for threatening to stomp kids and saying he's going to cut, rip his head off.
Those videos were not strike.
I know.
But hold on a minute. It depends whether or not that was. If it's comedy,
context.
If he's just talking shit for the sake of talking shit, then no. But if he doesn't make it clear and obvious that this is just comedy, and you could do that very easily by logging your video into the comments section or whatever, right? Like the little category or whatever. If he doesn't make it obvious that this is comedy, then no, of course it's not okay to threaten. And you can't just say, oh, stomp some random baby. No, it has to be a specific person that exists that you're threatening. This is pretty well defined. This isn't that difficult, because if you're saying what Vegan Gains did, and I don't know exactly what he did.
Well, he apologized.
But if you're saying you can't do that, then what you're saying is that you can't make movies where people die in them, because
that's true.
You know what I mean? Like you can't do
He's acting.
anything.
And it was taken out of context.
You can say he's acting, but like I said, he's very public, came out and said that he had issues. He spent a lot of money on therapy, and he's already legitly said that he said it out of anger. And I believe if that person was in front of him at that time of his fits of outrage, who knows what would have happened. That's
all I'm saying. Shut up.
I'm not saying it's okay or it isn't okay. I'm saying there are certain ways you could find out. And if it's debatable and a court of law or YouTube or somebody decides that he was indeed threatening somebody and breaking the law, then yeah, fine, go ahead, take it down. However, this has to be deliberated, and it's debatable, and it's definitely controversial. That's why the discussion happens. You don't just take it down because he uttered these words, because these words are uttered all the time in Hollywood and movies, and that's allowed. So just because he utters certain words doesn't necessarily mean that he wasn't exercising his freedom of speech. If he says specifically, this person's baby, I want to do this or that, that's that's a gray area. If he says, I will go and do that, then yeah, you should get fucking arrested and thrown in prison. You know what I mean? It really depends on, like Janine's saying, on the context.
Hey, you guys, I have a horror story to tell you.
Go ahead. Go for it.
In Virginia, okay, there's a channel called the Patriot Nurse.
Yeah, Patriot
Very passionate nurse. Have you heard of it?
I've seen some videos from her. Yeah.
Oh my God. So she just put up this very passionate video where so she's a working nurse in a neonatal unit, I believe. And she just got new directives, I believe it was in Virginia, where they are allowed to kill. And the reason why I bring this up, first of all, is because what Carneval was asking, what if the government told you to kill your neighbor and you had to comply? What would you do? Would you submit or would you fight? So they put this law up in Virginia where they are allowed to kill, and they use a different term. They don't use the word kill or murder. Full-term babies who have been born. If the mother decides that she doesn't want the baby. I mean, this is.
So that's not entirely correct. I know Patriot.
Yeah, I don't know that. I don't know how that works. I don't know the details of the term.
Legislation forward has said that up to 22 weeks you can have full term. You can have an abortion. The Virginia governor said that he wants to put legislation forward to state that they can, once the baby is born and delivered, the mom and the baby can, the mom and the physician can make that. Yeah, that has not been put into effect, but yes, that is a great example.
That's on the
overreach.
table.
And guess where Patriot Nurse has a second channel on?
What?
Full 30, along with her boyfriend Reed Hendricks. Full 30 www.
Oh, that okay. So
30, what I was just talking about.
Second Amendment rights nurse. Okay.
Yeah. So, like I said. Like they said, this conversation that we've had has been going, because I've been following her, the Haas USMC, Reed Hendricks. I've been following these people since the 8 years, a long time. And these are conversations that we've already had within these other niches, so to speak. So I understand where you guys are coming from. I guess what I'm stating is she does have a channel on YouTube, but she has a channel on another channel too, where
my point in bringing up that story is we shouldn't smother her voice to voice her opinion on that directive that's being laid on the table in Virginia. We should be able to hear, like, we shouldn't tell her it's wrong to fight that directive. You know what I'm saying? She's saying I'm not going to do it, and she's calling out for all nurses.
But when YouTube is the way it is, you have to realize that they, like I said, you know the way they are. And so you trying to go on their channel and demand services that they provide, that's where the divide comes. Like I said,
but she's in a private hospital where those are the laws of the hospital. Does that mean she's supposed to follow them?
As far as the government goes, yeah, she has to make that decision. We all have to make that decision. But government is different, like I said, from a private entity. It is. Like I said,
government is a corporation. It's a private entity. Of course it is. It's a public corporation. No. Every single government office, every single government organization, every single politician in Congress, even the president, every single one of these entities is a corporation registered on the fucking stock market. I'm not saying you can buy stock in the president, but all of these are corporations. Your police department is a corporation. It's a business. Your fire department is a corporation and a business. Your municipality is a corporation. That's why when you drive into your town or wherever, it says incorporated, because it's a corporation. That's just a fact. That is not like, I'm not making this up. This is how it is. They're all businesses.
Sure. If you want to take that model, that's fine. But if you're talking about redress of grievances, one would be civil, and the other one, as far as government goes, would be criminal. And the way the process is done is completely different, and they're apple to oranges when you're looking at a criminal suit versus you're looking at a civil suit. Like I said, if the government says that you did something, regardless of how true or untrue it may be, they have to provide you representation. They have to do a certain amount of things. I'm not saying it's a perfect system, because it's not. But with YouTube, you can't say, YouTube, you messed up. I want a reprisal of grievances. Now pay for a lawyer. You can totally do that with the criminal, government side. So they are different in how they're looked at. And like I said, I understand how passionate this is. I really do. But I think the idea that you're going to tell a private company that you want them to host your content on their channel, and then expect them to pay you, and be upset about monetization requirements, I think that's a huge stretch in the other direction. And all I'm saying is, we need to look about, I think the best way to go about it is, you know, we may disagree. I think that freedom of speech is important, but I think at the end of the day, we got to figure out what's the solution forward, because
so where does it exist? Because you haven't answered this question. Where does freedom of speech exist if everything is privately owned? Where does it exist?
Well, it's going to, you know, what you're able to say obviously is going to be different in every place you go.
No, but I'm not talking about applied ethics. I'm talking about ethically. Where does freedom of speech as a concept exist? If what you're saying is that because everything is privately owned, and that means that that private corporation that owns wherever land you're standing on and speaking, they could at any point in time take away your right to free speech. Just because they don't do that, that doesn't mean that in reality freedom of speech does, or in concept it does exist. It doesn't. If they can take it away from you and it's okay and ethical, that means it doesn't exist. Just because they allow you to speak for the time being, that is not free speech.
So where does free speech exist?
Where does free speech exist where nobody can tell you what you can't, as long as you're not breaking the law, libeling people, or, you know, threatening them? Where can you say something, express your opinion about unicorns and not get, and it's not okay legally or ethically or in any way, shape, or form for anybody to censor you? Where does this space exist?
I mean, in the United States of America, as far as I have ever seen, in any public right of way, I've never seen anyone talk about.
But you're not understanding the question. Okay. What you're saying is that, what I'm telling you is that every single piece of property, every single inch of this planet is owned. And if your standard is that just because it's owned by somebody, they can take away your right of free speech doesn't exist. Where does it exist if every single inch of the planet is owned?
Well, if that's, like I said, if that's the hard stance you're taking, then yeah, it would.
No, that's the stance you're taking. You're taking it. I'm not taking the stance. I'm completely against that stance. This is the stance that you took. And I just, you know, I basically drew it out to its logical conclusion. This is what you're
like I said, if you're gonna take, like I said, I've never, it's like when vegans kind of, not saying that you're doing that, but when vegans take, like, we're gonna take it to the far extreme. Since you have pets, you're slavery, and that's the same as human slavery. Like, I've never seen in the United States of America, I've never seen where somebody went into a public right of way and calmly saying whatever they wanted to say.
Where does the space exist where I can say whatever I want, as long as I'm not breaking the law or threatening anybody? Where does this space exist where nobody has the right to take away my ability to say this? Where does this space exist? Where is it?
It's really true free speech.
Exactly. It's that simple. It's really that basic. I don't understand why people don't understand this. Just because we're granted the privilege to say something and we're not being persecuted for it right now, the standard that you're saying by which YouTube has the right to take away your platform, that standard, if carried out universally, means that at any point in time, anywhere on this planet, your freedom of speech can be taken away. That is not what I'm proposing. That is what you're proposing.
If you want to take it to its very logical, at the very end, and say that as long as somebody comes at you with censorship that is not freedom of speech, then sure, it doesn't exist. But to say that a private company that created out of thin air a platform that is free for you to put content on and then somehow takes that away from you is violating your freedom of speech, like I said, I just don't see it, because you can still say it. And censorship, to me, like violating freedom of speech, is when somebody comes at you with force and says you can't say this anymore. That's where I see violation of freedom of speech. That's just different between the two of us. And, you know, and unfortunately, I mean, that's just how it is. That's how I feel. It's the use of force. It's the use of force. That's where it officially says that's your freedom of speech taken away. Censoring your speech on their private platform, in my opinion, is not taking away your freedom of speech, because you can still say it. Saying you are no longer allowed to speak and we're going to use force against you, that's where freedom of speech is violated.
That's what happened, in my opinion.
And that's just my opinion. He was not, there was no force used against him.
Of course there was. They took his channel away from him.
That's not force. There's no use of force. No, absolutely not. We totally have a totally different degree of what.
Okay, so he didn't agree with them taking his channel away, and they took it away. How is that not force?
Because he's free to say it. YouTube's not coming to him and saying you are no longer allowed to speak about this.
you're no longer allowed to speak about this on YouTube.
Yeah, that's their private platform.
Right, and what you're saying is that every single website out there can say that to him, and
Yes.
because it's right. So there is no freedom of speech; it doesn't exist.
No, that's not what I'm saying. No, you're talking about saying you don't have a right to say something on my platform. I'm saying when freedom of speech is violated, force has to be used. I don't see saying you can't do this on my private entity is a violation of freedom of speech.
If somebody freezes your bank account, if the government freezes your bank account, that is absolutely force. It doesn't have to be physical, but that is absolutely force.
Right.
Yeah, that would be force because that's the government saying.
Right, they're going to sit on a computer. They're going to sit on a computer, push a few buttons, and they're going to take away your bank account, or they're going to take away your YouTube channel. It's the same force. They're using force again. They're doing something to you you don't want done to you. Of course, that's force. It's not necessarily physical because it exists in this virtual world, whether it's money or your YouTube channel. Okay, but it's still force. And I'm still waiting for you to tell us where this space exists, where we don't have to fear anybody taking away our right to say whatever we want to say. Where does this exist? And if you say, the criteria is that
if you're coming from the idea that it's possible for somebody to take your ability to say something away at any time, and like it's possible for it to happen, then yeah, you're right. There would be technically no freedom.
So you're saying we're at the mercy of corporations to give us the freedom of speech. We don't have it innately. They're just giving it to us. That's what you're saying.
What I'm saying is that personally, if you are in a position where you're putting content on somebody's private domain and they say we don't,
no,
it is private.
No, it's not. It's a public domain. YouTube is of course it's a public space.
It is a public space.
How
it's a space that they allow the public to go into. It's not making a public
That's a public space.
They can no, it's not. There's a difference, and it's just like I said, there's. And I get where you're coming from.
If you put a sign up and it says open to the public, that's a public space. If you put a sign up that says private, keep out, that's not a public space. What YouTube has done is said open to the public, jump through these hoops, register so that we know who you are, and come join the public space. It is the public space. Of course it is. It's one of the biggest public spaces in the world. Yes, it's virtual, but it's still a public space. Of course it is. Anybody can express themselves.
Like I said, if I had a business or if I started a block party and I said it's open to the public, these are my rules of decorum, and somebody violates that rule of decorum, me saying, hey, you're drunk in public, you're causing this scene and this scene and this scene, I want you removed. You haven't caused a crime
But I'm not
yet.
saying there shouldn't be any rules.
See, then what are you saying? Because
being drunk in public, disrupting the peace is not freedom of speech.
Saying that you're going to slit somebody's throat and that you're going to stomp on babies, like I said.
But I already agreed with you.
Well, I get that. So you're saying that it's okay to violate somebody's freedom of speech. We're just confused on what the rules are that would violate.
No, it's not okay to violate anybody's freedom of speech. But
so if I say something that
no, freedom of speech is already defined. You can't slander people. Okay, you can't say
slander?
Saying things that you can prove where exactly the reason why that person's income suffered, why they suffered some kind of loss, and hold on.
So it's false statement, right?
and the things that you said weren't true.
So how many videos do you think are online where people have said things that aren't true about people that would be considered slander?
I mean, I'm sure it happens.
So should those people be allowed? Should those people have their YouTube channel removed?
If you slandered somebody, yeah, you should you could take legal action against that person.
No, but should YouTube be able to say, hey, you said this person was gay, and you said this person did this, or you said this person did that, and the person didn't do that, should their channel be removed?
I think that should be left up to the laws of your city.
No, it's not laws. I'm just saying decorum.
No.
Decorum. If I say slander is wrong.
But calling someone gay is not slander. You're just expressing your opinion.
So when does opinion become slander?
Well, but now we're talking about what the rules of
when it hurts somebody's financial business or family. Yeah. You know what I'm like when you know what I mean.
These rules already exist.
Well, you have your opinion.
I'm not trying to redefine these rules. These rules exist. I agree with them. What I'm talking about is the principles that you're setting. You're saying that the corporation could set these rules to mean anything they want. I'm not saying that. You are.
Well, when you say slander, that's saying that's the rule that you want, and basically, and then
That's
here's
not
another thing you
very
have to
fair.
that I respect. It exists, and I have no problem with it. That's all I'm
right.
saying.
I agree, and I think we can all agree that I think YouTube's guidelines should be more. What's the word I'm looking for? Clear and defined. I agree. They're very vague. But let's say YouTube. Let's put things on the opposite foot here. Let's say YouTube said you are not allowed to slander, and I have the legal definition of slander, defamation in front of me. It's the action of making a false spoken statement damaging to somebody's reputation. So if, for
You're
example,
not allowed to slander people on YouTube.
exactly. So take me for example. If I'm clearly not a certain way, let's just say somebody was saying something about my orientation, and let's say I'm able to prove, well, this is ruining my reputation with my wife, with my church, with my current employers, and with my different investments I have up. I want you to take milk jars. I want you to take Frank Tufano's, and I want you to take Sverage's account away because they called me gay. Obviously, I can prove that this has damaged my reputation. Here is a notarized letter from my county clerk. Should and I can prove it.
No, not just because they called you gay. It's because they said they know you are and that they have proof that you are. It's not just I can express my opinion about anything. It's just an opinion. If somebody says that you for a fact are and they know this, it's something that, like, they call you a rapist, and that obviously is going to damage your reputation and your ability to make money.
Brother,
if that's what they do, then of course that's illegal. It's unethical. It's just downright wrong, and you can't do that. And YouTube already has a rule against that, and I agree with that rule.
I agree, but YouTube doesn't enforce it across the board.
Because the way to prove that slander exists, and I'm so glad that these measures exist, is you have to take somebody to court and prove your case. You can't just say, "Oh, he slandered me," like Goji Man.
Right.
In a criminal, not civil. That's the difference, and that's why I'm glad we brought the difference up. Because in a civil tort, all you have to do is prove that a spoken statement that was false is damaging.
And then leave it for the courts to decide, not YouTube, because YouTube, they like I said, they take down first, investigate later. A court will investigate first and then punish later if necessary. That's fair. That's more fair.
Yeah.
So the government entity does it more fair than the private entity.
I'm not saying that at all, but I'm saying the way YouTube does it.
What I'm saying, if YouTube's saying they're going to censor slander and they did it across the board, and they held it across the board, I hate to break it to you, a lot more people would have their channels taken down. Every time CNN or Fox made a misinformation, which they have to retract that all the time, they would be banned too. So if you were to put these rules that even you would put in place, and you were to fold it to the full entirety, there's a lot more channels that would be taken down.
The news channels would be banned if that was the case. But like, if someone's going to take this and say, you're ruining my business, my wife, and all this stuff, I'm going to take you to court. That's for the courts to decide. I don't think that should be for YouTube to decide, because first of all, they're not doing a good job of it at all.
Right. And
second of all, they're very unfair. And third,
I'm just letting you know right now, the way the current rules are standing as far as the bigger scale, people are really trying to make YouTube a public utility, which would make it controlled by the government almost in its entirety, just like your electric would be. So that's kind of the two options you have. You have how messed up it is right now, or you have making YouTube a public utility like your water bill, your electric bill. So be very careful, when you're talking about your options, what you want to do. Me personally, I'm under the assumption that I think what the tactical and sustainability movements have already done with going to alternative platforms where we can share our opinions, I think that's great. But be very careful when you're talking about what kind of oversight, because you either have somebody else audit, YouTube, i.e. the government, or you have the ability to just let them be the ridiculousness that they are. And so those are really your two options.
No,
either they self-police themselves or you make them a public utility. So if you're wanting to make YouTube a public utility, like your electric and water bill and your waste bill, then you really need to be very straightforward with that, because those are your only two options. There is no third option besides. And I'm just letting you know. Yeah, and so that's why I think I know we all agree that there should be rules of decorum, and I think that we just, like I said, we have to understand the where we're going with it. And I think you guys are fucking outstanding. And I think it should be said, there's nobody on YouTube that's having this conversation. Nobody. And so I think it's awesome that, you know, we're challenging each other. I'm really scared about that option. You know, should we make this a public utility, or should we allow the free market to kind of take,
there is no free market. It doesn't exist. It's
okay. So should we make it a public utility, or should we have, you know, the system we have in place now? Me personally, with the other alternative websites that are already doing extremely well, I think that's the best course of action. But making YouTube a public utility, to me, that's more scary than them censoring or flagging one of my channels or one of my videos. And so that's why I'm very, you know, that's why I'm just begging you to look at that. And I understand it from the ethical side, Carnival, and, you know, you've challenged me here for sure. But at the end of the day, I have to ask myself, should YouTube be a public utility, or should we just look at what our course of actions as citizens should be? And I think that, you know, maybe we should look at other alternatives. Maybe we should somehow campaign in order to make all these different niches, you know, have the tactical community talking to the diet community, talking to the exercise community, talking to the video game community, especially because the video game community, for those of you that are familiar with, you know, PewDiePie and all these other people, they're being censored and hit extremely hard too. So we should really look at what our derivatives are and push forward.
Well, I think, sorry guys, just let me say this, please. I think we've beat a dead horse enough. It's fine. We could agree to disagree. One last thing I want to say, if you go to Dun & Bradstreet and you could look up your grandpa's, you know, florist business on there, the same way you could look up the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. So there is no difference. They're all businesses. They're all corporations. There is zero difference between, I mean, obviously there's some business, but as far as the free market goes, the Supreme Court is just as much of a business as your grandpa's florist shop. And I'm going to leave it at that. And then maybe you, Janine, want to give your closing statement on this before we move on to something else. Maybe
I agree.
More lighthearted.
I just don't want to be, you know, condemned or smothered for trying to speak out about it and change the rules that we don't like. I think that can absolutely work, you know, if the people speak out. I mean, maybe not on such a large scale as YouTube, but things like the Starbucks and you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, I just want to say, I want to thank you guys. You guys are truly outstanding. I think we have conversations here with Carnival. I think you host stuff that obviously has not been heard or talked about in the public platform. So I definitely applaud you. I agree with freedom of speech. You know, I think that at the end of the day, you know, when I look at things at coming to the end of totality, and I really don't want YouTube to be or anything like YouTube. I don't want it to be a public utility. I don't want any of the alternatives to become a public utility. I think that we need to figure out a way to get it done. But like I said, I love all your guys' content. I think you two are some of the, you know, I watch every one of your videos, and I have just nothing but a shit ton of respect for you guys. And I really hope that a bunch of us can come together and figure out, you know, what it is that we can do. Because like I said, I mean, if any of your channels go away tomorrow, you know, who knows? I just might, you know, change, you know, everything because of how much I respect you guys and enjoy your content. So, like I said, I want to see a change forward in the right direction. But like I said, making YouTube a public utility, to me, literally scares me to death. So, thank you guys for everything. I mean, this is I think it's been truly awesome, and you guys definitely challenged me today.
Yeah, and one last thing just occurred to me on this topic, and I really do want to move on, but one last thing occurred to me. Look, there are a lot of people running their business on YouTube. So that argument, you know, why is YouTube shutting down Vegan Gains' business? Isn't he a business? Doesn't he have the same rights? You know what I mean? All of a sudden, if that's the ideology, we have the ideology clashing right before us, because all these various channels that make money on YouTube, they're businesses too, right? So they're private corporations, aren't they? Of course, they pay taxes and all that other stuff. So this ideology, it just doesn't, this worldview, it just doesn't make any sense to me. But maybe I'm wrong, you know what I mean? So, but I don't know if you guys want to move on. Talk about something else, maybe.
I'm all about it.
I have a question for Millennial, and yes, I just want to warn you, my entire family just got home, so it's going to be really loud.
Yes, ma'am.
So, the 3-year-old. So anyway, Millennial, about your rabbit.
Yeah.
So, you know, I feel liver is a superfood, especially for women.
Yes.
So do you guys eat the liver of your rabbits?
Absolutely, I do. Absolutely.
Okay, because my rabbit farmer where I live, she said I don't know if this is true, but she said the rabbits is high up there with one of the most nutritious livers. And I know Carneval was considering it, and he likes liver. That might be an option for him.
No, as far as rabbit liver goes, you're absolutely right. That's what I hear too, and that's one of the reasons why I like rabbit. The only, like I said, I'll be honest, the only downside to rabbit is it doesn't have enough fat on it to sustain
Right.
you. So this whole idea that if you eat a bunch of, that's what I don't understand about veganism. If you eat too much rabbit, you're gonna eventually die from it's called protein starvation. Basically, you don't have enough fat in your diet, so there's no way to get atherosclerosis eating rabbit. Just plain and simple, want that out there. But yeah, it's super high in it's super high in a lot of it's a nutrient dense food. It's a superfood for sure.
Oh, I have another question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
About the rabbits. I don't know if I asked you this or I wanted to ask you this already about their pelts. Do you do anything with their pelts?
So that's a great question. So for fry, you have rabbits in different stages of life have different names, but as far as fryers go, like basically rabbits that are 8 weeks to 3 months, 3 to 5 months old, their pelts are very flexible and they're very thin, so they're not really good to make pelts from. But any rabbit over 6 months old, yes, they make great pelts. So
because I have these 2 little pet rabbits and I love them so much. And when they die,
they're over 6 months old. They're high hardens. Yeah, so they'd be perfect to make a pelt from.
I want to save them for my kids to have memories. Make a little pillow out of them. But like, I don't know how to do that, and I just wanted to know if that was something that was possible. If I could actually turn their fur into some sort of pillow or something,
No, absolutely. And I don't know what kind they are, how big they are, but everything.
Lap ears, huge.
Yeah. So anything over 6 months old would be totally fine, and they'd make great pelts. But
would I go to like a taxidermist?
Yeah, absolutely, taxidermist, or your crazy uncle who lives in the woods. I'm joking. I think I'm that crazy uncle. But there's a lot of different places you can go. You can try to do it yourself. It's not very. I don't think it's very hard, but it may be a project. I don't know. But yeah, there's lots of people out there that, well, maybe not anymore. I'm sure that skill set's going away, but you should be able to find somebody that can do it for you.
Right.
Hey Janine, not to put you on the spot or anything, but I think I owe you $5 or
what? What are you talking about?
There was a super chat I wasn't brave enough to read, and it was directed at you.
Oh my God, what was it?
Oh, someone was just complimenting your looks.
My looks?
Yeah.
I literally just put up that anemia isn't pretty of my face look in the winter look.
Do you want me to read it?
Sure. You know what? I used to be a bartender. I can hang with the guys. Yeah. Okay.
I see titties in the thumbnail.
Yeah, I know. Okay. I know. That's me. That's me on the beach on a daily basis.
Well, after YouTube takes their $1.50 or $2 or something like that, if you give me your PayPal or something, I'll send you the remainder, because I certainly...
You earned it. You have the balls enough to come out with that. You earned it.
All right. Well, maybe one day I could buy
I'm no feminist.
A glass of raw milk or something.
Yeah. No,
Carnival, officer and a gentleman.
Say raw milk and titties in the same sentence.
Okay. Well, anyway. Well, yeah, I don't really have too much to say. I'm just kind of burnt out after last night. But if you guys want to jumpstart another topic,
is there any one of your I mean, I'm sure you get tons of emails and messages in the chat. I haven't been keeping up the chat, but is there anybody that has any questions outside of what we were talking about earlier that they want to ask?
Yeah, if anybody in the chat has any questions, shoot. I'll definitely read them. But I did get an email about Impossible Burger, one of them fake meat burgers being advertised during Super Bowl. So veganism making strides. The thing that gets me about this is that on the surface, right, the way to do veganism right is whole food, plant-based, and everyone's just pushing that supposedly, but ultimately this vegan community embraces these processed foods because, you know, it has that V label on it. And ultimately, it seems like a contradiction within their worldview because, you know, they say you got to do whole food, plant-based, but they cheer when these major corporations and companies put out an ad for a highly processed and I would even say downright toxic product like the Impossible Burger. So it just doesn't make any sense to me.
I think Frank Tufano made a video where he actually tasted it, and he said it tasted like chemicals.
I believe it. Yeah, it has like titanium in there for coloring.
Ew.
It has like, yeah, just all these chemicals in it that help to, I'm guessing, keep the color, preserve the color, keep the whole shit intact, for the lack of a better word, and just to preserve it, right? Because I read something, a label on something like that, not exactly the Impossible Burger, here in Ecuador, and it was just like 40 different ingredients and half of them chemicals. You know what I mean? It was, they actually use rust for coloring for some of these mock meats.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so you're eating literally rust.
Wow.
Yeah.
It just gets better and better. So
you know what I can't stand about these Impossible Burger alternative. I know this has been talked about. I feel like I'm late to the show here. And I got this from I know she doesn't like me. I watch her channel. I think it's great. I think she has a lot of great things to say. But she's right. Like, why do vegans always want to eat things that taste like meat? And why do they go through all this unsustainable? Why do they go through all this unsustainable processes to make it in a lab, to get all these processed plant foods from all over the country that have been sprayed with chemicals to make a burger that doesn't even taste good? Like, can somebody explain that to me?
Because they're fucking idiots.
You know what I mean?
No, I can explain it because they're trying to trick you. It's a scam. They want you. It's just like they're putting the fake meat now, the vegan meat now next to the real meat in the meat counter. You'll see the vegan meat right next to it.
Like,
the vegan crap. They're trying to trick you. And so people that don't read their labels, there's many of them out there. They're just going to grab a pack of, quote, meats that's right next to the regular meat, you know, and then throw it in there. You know what I'm saying?
I completely agree. I think that's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to switch us off from eating meat to these alternatives without really noticing. And yeah, I'm not going to get too conspiratorial, but like that's...
No. It's not. I mean, I don't get it. What? Like, it's so. That's what I understand. Like veganism, like somebody was saying that being a carnist or being carnivore is elitist. I don't know. I'm not a carnist, but veganism is definitely elitist. I mean, for everybody to say that, you know, meat is only a rich person's diet. Well, I hate to break it to you, I'm far from rich, and you know, I can have meat no matter what happens. You know what I mean? No matter what happens. So. I have no idea.
And that's another good point. Here I am, a single mother, a bunch of kids. My grown children are living in my house with their own kids and their boyfriends, trying to feed everybody, 2 jobs. And if I can feed my family on small farmers, from small farmers, I think that anybody can do it. And that includes bartering.
Sorry. Now that I eat almost primarily meat, I actually spend less money on food. Now, obviously, if you go out and eat steaks every day, or you want to get oysters every day, yeah, you could do that as well. And yes, that's going to be expensive. But if you stick to primarily like ground beef, organs, eggs, and milk, I mean, it's cheap as hell. It's cheap as hell. And as far as the environmental impact goes, the kind of plate that I eat weighing 170 pounds versus the skinniest vegan that's 140 pounds, by size, by volume, by weight, is about a quarter of what this guy eats, is what I eat.
And that's another thing I discovered. When I quit eating rice and pasta and grains, so I started eating meat again, and I felt much better, but then I couldn't control my binge eating, and I had inflammation in my joints. So I heard that if you quit grains, it could heal the inflammation. Well, I quit grains. Within 2 weeks, my binge eating cravings for carbs and junk, like I used to sit there and eat a bag of chips while I'm cooking dinner because I was shaking. I couldn't control my cravings, you know, for junk. So I don't have those cravings anymore. I can look at a donut like it's a brick now. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's all because, so my plates are tiny. I've said this before. I eat out of a child-sized plate. and I'm way more satiated. I don't buy the chips anymore, the crackers, the junk, the extra side spices, and all that other crap. Salt and pepper, meat, eggs, dairy. I have a piece of fruit every day. My grocery bill is, well, not grocery bill, farmer's market bill, I should say, is way lower than it ever was by buying all this extra crap to fill in the void, you know, the cravings for the whole family.
Hey, Carnival. Do you mind if I address the question that Ju just sent about?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So yeah, I see a question in the chat. Do you think there's a fundamental difference between taking a sample from an animal and making meat out of it, killing versus animal for food? I think that's a great question. I think the biggest difference is when you are talking about stem cell research and making meat in a lab, it's way more unsustainable and way more unethical than if you raised it yourself and slaughtered it, harvested it. And the reason being is you got to look at the infrastructure it takes up to have a lab. You got to look at all the electricity, all the resources, outside resources they have to bring in just to make one patty. You know what I mean? The permitting and everything it takes, and then to take that food and then to use petrochemicals to ship it all over the world versus what, you know, somebody does in their backyard.
You missed one important point. You still got to feed it soy. You still got to
yeah. Right.
You know?
And so
plus it's clean, quote unquote.
Yeah. I mean, when we're looking at these things, you got to look at it holistically. Too many vegans just want to say, well, I go to the grocery store and this is what I see. But they're looking at 5% of a 95% journey. You know what I mean? And they're totally missing out. And they're saying the other 95% of that food's journey means absolutely nothing. And then the next thing, somebody's probably a troll saying that, you know, people eat raw meat, have problems, it has no taste. You know, if you want to, you know, make fun of all the Asian cultures out there, you want to make fun of all the Native American cultures out there and say they're all crazy, so be it. But, you know, eating raw vegetables, how's that any different than, you know, the Japanese person eating sushi or what have you? So whatever, dude. I'm sure you guys have your own opinion on that, but, you know, there's nothing wrong with raw milk. You know what I mean? Like a mom is, you know, nursing, you know, totally raw, if you will. So I don't want to hear it. It's ridiculous.
The clean meat, there's something that people aren't realizing either. If you read about it in depth, they can't reproduce the fat. So it's just literally clean. It's just like, it's like lean red meat with no fat. And that makes me wonder, it looks like a sterile piece of rubber is what it looks like on a white background in the packaging. The packaging.
Trash.
Yeah, and then it makes me wonder if they can't replicate the fat and all the fat-soluble vitamins that go with it, fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, K2, and you know.
Dang it, you're onto us. Stop.
Then what?
Stop. Wait. Aliens, circle square.
Oh, that's another thing. Without vegan gains, we wouldn't have had that beautiful content, or I don't know who that dude is, that beautiful content of answer the question. That will go down in history. Now, we need people like Vegan Gains for that entertainment, okay? I don't want it to get boring around here.
And they're also proof positive of veganism not working for all of those people who have their eyes open. You know what I mean? Clearly, the kid is suffering physically, mentally, spiritually, whatever you want to say. That like the kid is.
He actually looks pale. A few, like, what is it? Last year when he had that video where he has, you could see the thumbnail. He has a knife to his throat. He was he had a very good color to him.
Yeah.
And now he's very pale.
Look, like people could look bad on any diet, but if you're telling me that veganism is the diet for the human herbivore, you got, dude, you're pale as fuck. You got bad skin. You got mental issues. Like we haven't seen you in the gym, from what I hear, in ages. Like you have joint issues. Like he has all kinds of health issues. You know, so forget about it. You're definitely, maybe you're not practicing what you're preaching, but you're definitely not a good representative of the most healthful diet on the planet because, dude, you look like shit.
Wait,
he's not taking the right subs, bro. He just needs to change his subs, bro.
Yeah.
The clean meat, what I was saying, I forgot to say the rest. The deficiencies in that meat, what are they replicating? If they can't replicate the fat and all the vitamins that go with it, are they replicating the other nutrients in real meat? Like what's going to be missing?
That would be my question. I don't know, but what I would want to see and what I don't understand is how do you release this on the market without long-term controlled clinical trials to make sure that this isn't bad for us, right? And obviously we don't have that with grain or other things, because we assume that these are our natural foods, what have you. Okay, fine, that's bad enough as it is, but you're inventing something in a lab, creating it from scratch, essentially, a few cells. Like, shouldn't you test this first on some people and before you release it to market? Like, how do you know this is safe?
At least a year. Let them eat this shit for a year, and then.
No, you got to do like, and I know it's expensive and it would take forever and delay the whole process, which is why they're not doing it. But you have to do this for like 40, 50 years. To be honest,
you're right.
You know what I mean?
Generations have to,
And like, to answer your question, I'm not a biochemist, so I can't really speak on it very eloquently. But I don't imagine, even if it's just muscle meat, that it's just one type of cell, right? There are all kinds of different types of cells in there that contain different nutrients, what have you. And if you're just taking a cell or two and trying to replicate that, what is it missing? You know what I mean? It's probably missing.
They're just practicing. They're practicing on us.
Yeah, exactly.
Not me. They're practicing on you.
Oh no,
you're gonna eat this. They're practicing on you.
It's so ridiculous. I can't even, like, I don't understand. I don't know. And that's
bizarro world.
I get so drained by it, because it's like,
me too.
You can't have logical conversations. Like, I can't tell you how many people I've tried in the vegan community just to have a conversation about this, and they won't do it. It's so much, like, if there's any vegans out there, honestly, and I know Carnival, you always ask them, like, if you really think you know what you're talking about, like, this is a forum where obviously I think we just proved that we can disagree. Very, emotionally, but I would always have these people's backs, and we can have good dialogue. So if you're out there and you think you have something to bring to the table, let Carnival know, and let's do this, because their cognitive dissonance is so intense. It's ridiculous. Like, unless you guys disagree, I mean, I think any vegan is welcome to come here and hash it out in a civil setting.
Yeah, I've invited plenty of people who tend to challenge me in the comment section, and they always flake. Except for, I got to give credit to Nick from Nutrition TV. He actually stepped up.
Huh? Whoa! Had that dude on your Google chat?
He was really nice and cordial, and we disagreed on a lot of stuff, but it was a good, productive conversation, I thought.
Me and him have some beef.
Oh, well,
He knows what I'm talking about.
Probably that little boy in school pulling on your hair.
Oh man. But yeah, I just don't understand. Like I said, the cognitive dissonance is so intense. Like, it's not like, I don't understand how veganism even still, I don't know how it's still around, but hey, there's a lot of things that are still around that make no sense. So I don't know, what can you do? What can you do? Does anyone else have any questions? I know there's a bunch of them we probably just missed because we get so into this thing.
How are you guys seeing the chat? I don't see anything.
You gotta open your browser and just click on my channel, find the video, live stream. Yeah, there might be a way to do it in Google Hangouts. I don't know. There might be.
I don't think so. Because I clicked on the little chat box here and it wouldn't allow me.
Yeah, no, that's us chatting internally. You gotta go to YouTube to see them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now I know for next time.
Oh man, it seems foolish. It seems foolish to me when the vegan side claims that taking a sample of animal and growing meat is way ethical. You are still intruding, harming when you do that, right? Yeah, like I said, the animal meat thing or lab grown meat thing it's ridiculous. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason. But yeah, I mean, I think it's one of these things. So I got a question. I don't know what you guys feel about it, but this is something that I've been challenging, and I know you guys here are mainly carnists with me, but what's your opinion on fish, and what's your opinion on, because I know carnists kind of have a difference in opinion on that. Me personally, I have aquaponics, and my fish are now getting to that big point. What is your what's your guys' opinion on that? Because I know some carnists are like, fish are vegetables, and it's like, you always have everybody that kind of does their own thing. I just want to know what your guys' opinion on it is. And
I wish I could eat more fish. It's just.
Oh, you want to know what my thing on this is?
Yes,
I've never eaten fish. Okay.
Really? From Florida?
Yeah. Well, I'll eat oysters once in a while if I go out to eat. But what happened to me is I'm learning a lot about one of my illnesses, which is fibroids. And fish are high in iodine, right? I don't eat fish. Fibroids are caused by an iodine deficiency. So that's another effing deficiency that I just realized I had because I didn't know. Doctors will not tell you, cannot tell you why you get fibroids. They just don't know. They admittedly will say they don't know, which my doctor said. He shrugged his shoulders. And every single website, not one of them, not one says iodine deficiency. They all say high estrogen. Okay, so you do your own, you dig deeper and deeper and deeper, and you find out there's this whole secret, like underground, where iodine deficiency, everybody knows about iodine deficiency causing fibroids. Not only fibroids, all of the women's diseases. So this is important if you're a man because you have women in your lives. Fibrocystic breast disease, breast cancer, ovarian cancer, uterine cancer, all that stuff, all that good stuff is all caused, the goiters on the thyroid, it's all caused by iodine deficiency. So I maybe fish once a year my whole life, if that. And of course I went a very long time without eating it. So that's just something I want to say for women. Eat some dang fish, man, because you need iodine. You need iodine in your body.
I know a lot of people kind of try to steer away from fish because, like I said, there are some environmental diatoxin issues. And that's why, like, aquaponics is what a lot of people don't realize is a lot of these problems that people say are problems are easily taken away when you treat the animal with respect. I know that, and I know that people may think that sounds crazy coming from people that eat meat, but with my fish, you're not going to, and I noticed somebody was making like a mercury, funny mercury comment. You're not going to have mercury in fish that was grown in an aquaponic system. You're not going to have a lot of these issues with animals that are treated right. You know what I mean? Just like an animal that you put next to a waste facility. Yeah, they're going to have a more likeliness to get sick. They're going to have, produced, a subpar product, but you take care of your animals and they're going to take care of you. And I think that's missed on a lot of people. Vegans will say we have these problems, but yet they offer no solution to fix it. And when you do give them a solution, they discard it because insert cognitive dissonance here. So I just want to know what your guys' opinions on it, because aquaponics is, I think it's huge. It's definitely the way of the future in a lot of other countries, and it's feeding a ton of people. So
what is that, like a backyard? You have your own backyard thing going on where you're growing your own fish?
So I have a video on my channel. Not that I'm trying to send people to the channel. They might like it. It says aquaponics, don't watch if you're vegan. Kind of funny, but yeah. So basically, if you're looking at vegetables and stuff like that, you're looking at fish waste. The Chinese have been doing this for centuries upon centuries. But yeah, fish waste gets put into a grow bed with some kind of medium, whether that's clay pebbles or rock or what have you, and it produces a high quality whole plant-based food. But essentially, the fish grow extremely fast, extremely healthy, and I also produce duckweed, which I feed to all my animals, and I feed that to the fish. I have channel catfish, and you're able to produce a really healthy fish, and you're able to produce vegetables, and you can do this year round. So it basically, the fish waste is steroids, so to speak, for your plant-based products. So
about the commercial fishing, of course, I'm against that. I think that we should all just go back to Little House on the Prairie and just start line fishing, and maybe support if you're going to buy fish, support like a small fisherman. Not that commercial fishing. I don't agree. That's dredging up the oceans and destroying the oceans. Secondly, please tell me, has anybody ever heard of Anjanus van der Planet's theory on the mercury in fish?
No.
That he says that mercury is in all fish, and it's a necessary nutrient to keep the fish bladder working so the fish can swim up and down and float and actually swim. He said it's just totally normal to have mercury in fish. It's not a bad thing to have mercury in fish. And
I heard this via milk jar, but
really,
if that's the case, every fish in fish aquariums across the United States of America should be upside down, not working.
Why?
No,
why do you say that?
because unless these fish are producing the mercury themselves, they're not getting mercury in my systems. I don't put mercury. I don't supplement with mercury. You know what I mean? They drink the same water I drink. They eat the same food realistically that I eat. You know what I mean? The duckweed.
Aren't they born with it? Isn't it in their DNA somehow? I don't know how that works. Obviously,
it could be just in our environment. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. And mercury is a diatoxin that's released by, unfortunately, mainly the production of electricity. But yeah, there's a lot of other environmental stuff. But mercury is not naturally grown or found in fish, especially not at the levels that he would be referring to. If you were to take the mercury content of, because you got to think, all my baby fish, like these channel catfish, can get 20 pounds. They start off as little fry. You know what I mean? Like they start off, the size of a tadpole, a baby tadpole. So the fact that you think that baby tadpole has enough mercury that you're going to see in a fully grown 20-pound catfish, got to be realistic.
Well, but like at the same time, they've been fear mongering with all that mercury in the fish for such a long time. And then when you look at population studies, and I know they're just population studies, so you got to take them with a grain of salt. But when you look at those, people that eat more fish tend to have better health outcomes. So it's like, well, how bad can it be, really? I'm not saying that you should necessarily be eating shark liver or anything like that, but I'm all for eating fish. The more the better, man. Don't be scared. Just eat as much.
I would love to really learn more about what he says about that, because he did, how he does experiments. He does experiments on himself, and he tested, and he had a very low mercury content compared to. It's not like, okay. The thing that they say, whenever the government puts out recommendations for nutrition, like they'll say you can OD on vitamin A, do not eat liver. It's a completely different to OD, to eat liver from an animal, get the vitamin A from an animal such as liver, than to take a supplement vitamin A. But they combine it together. They act like it's the same thing.
No,
and
it's not.
Nutrition from animals. So the nutrition from a fish, and of course, if you get mercury injections in your vaccine, that's a completely different. But they group it into the same. You see what I'm saying?
But look, they've been bullshitting us for so long. They'll say TMAO from fish is bad, but TMAO from plants is good. Heme iron from animals is bad, but plant iron is good. Right. But it's actually the other way around.
I'll do the opposite of what the recommendations and what doctors say.
Yeah, that's
the opposite.
So at Mattytac, aquaculture is high energy and not very sustainable. You're wrong. Like I said, I can show you where in Africa they're doing this, and they barely have any power. I mean, I can run everything, totally off grid with a 50-watt solar panel. So this idea that aquaculture and aquaponics isn't sustainable, obviously you haven't done the research. No offense. And
can't you like hook up to a river and just use gravity and recycle?
Well, yeah. I mean, the water wheel. I mean, I'm sure that's all things we've heard before, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, not even that. Just divert a little section of the river to your like little system and have that water come through. Yeah.
Well, that's what happened to the guy in California during California's huge drought. A guy was siphoning water from his canal in the backyard to feed his horses, to water his grass, to feed his horse, and he got fined and nearly got his property taken away.
Private property. Sorry.
Meanwhile, his horse is dying, and they're watering the almond trees.
Yeah, like that's what people do here on the river. They'll just dig a little trench and siphon water from the river, have it run through these ponds on their property, and go back into the river. And they'll have like trout or tilapia or something like that.
Yeah, tilapia's great.
It doesn't cost anything except the labor.
It really doesn't. Like,
look into that mercury with the fish bladder thing.
Yeah, I would. Like I said, I think that's a farce.
I want to know for sure.
No research on that. But at Carnival Life, he says, I was forced to make a carnivore channel just to combat the thousands of vegetable channels. There's no way to do it. It's a war at this point. I mean, he does have a good point. I know the only reason why I started getting into this conversation is because, I had a vegan totally to come at me because I was cooking a grass-fed local chicken in my RV using solar completely off grid. And this guy behind the keyboard. Oh, okay. So I started up the channel again. I started up a channel again just to talk about sustainability, and I uploaded some old I started to upload older videos and put them on. And one of them is I was using induction hot plate that I run completely off solar, because when I do dry camping, like I said, completely off grid, and I got to use the solar that I produce. So I like the induction hot plate because I can control temperature, and every change of temperature will have a power variation. So I was just trying to go over the basics, right? Like this is power need to power usage. And yeah, the vegans just tore me up. And I'm like, who are these people? Like I've heard of vegans before, but I'm like, so it really kind of threw me into this, well, you know, I'm going to push back a little bit because how dare you? You're connected to the grid right now. Like I'm totally off grid. You're telling me that I'm not sustainable. And then,
Exactly.
yeah, well, looks like Bart K's on here. Awesome. Congratulations, sir. Good to see you. And then Matty Tack, he said 50-watt solar. How many fish would that grow in a cold northern climate? Well, to Matty, if you do any kind of hoop gardening in the wintertime, the temperature really has no effect on aquaponics. I don't know what he knows about that, but anybody that knows how to do, anyone that knows how to make a structure with plastic knows that wouldn't be a big deal. And the 50-watt is just how big you want your water pump to be, really, when you're taking the water from the base of the source and putting it in the grow bed.
Hey, Millennial, wouldn't that be okay? How would you make sure that your fish are, like, I hate to use the word natural, but
Sure.
like, but how do you make sure they're natural if they're not, like, if you're just using distilled water or whatever you're using in water?
No. I don't use distilled water. No. Good question. So obviously with normal, depending on what your water quality is, if you're using normal tap water, it's going to have chlorine and chlorate in it. So you can use a chemical and you can disperse that, or you can do what I do is I have water outside, standing water that I put an air stone in that's run off solar. And after 24 hours, the air stone dissipates that chlorine. And that's what I use to refill the water source. Aquaponics uses like 300% less water than traditional gardening. Traditional gardening isn't going to go anywhere. Not that anybody here really cares about gardening, but yeah, as far as growing high quality. Well, I know I just know a lot of people here don't follow that. But yeah, as far as making high quality fish go, yeah, like I said, I'm feeding the fish naturally. I mean, you're talking about insects will try to lay eggs in that standing water.
Go.
Bugs, you know, all sorts of duckweed. Like I said, duckweed is a superfood. I don't, you know, in my personal opinion, and it's great for livestock. Even if you're not going to eat it, give it to your animals in the wintertime. You're not producing as much pasture grass. You know, like I said, there's a lot of ways to do this. You just have to have a little bit of ingenuity, and all the people that are here are doers. So, you know, there's no shortage of ingenuity here in this chat for sure.
So you're feeding them a natural diet then, so that's going to at least make up for the water, you know, in some way.
Yeah, and like I said, you can use chemicals and stuff like that. And guess what? Industry, they're going to use a lot of chemicals because they care about one thing, bottom line.
That's
doing it
cool.
for yourself.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm about to, do you still have your RV channel up? Because I'm about to, it's really on the tip of my, like, to-do list. I'm about to get solar for my van, and I have 1 foot in the van and 1 foot in my apartment. I kind of want to live in my van for a year.
Everybody's different. As far as the RV life goes, I absolutely loved it. It's way cheap, way economical. I'd say I encourage everybody just to at least look at it. Yes, a lot of the old channel isn't there, but a lot of the videos from that channel are there. They don't have a lot of views because I just upload them all at once. But yeah, if you go to my channel, if you go to the start, you're going to see tons of them in the RV, and there's a lot of different. What is it called? It's just on my channel, my Millennial Prepster channel. Just go to my videos.
Oh, okay, cool.
I uploaded all the videos at once. So like I said, there's a lot on there. I talk about everything from power to water usage, all sorts of stuff.
I'm interested in that. I'm interested in that. The only problem I would have is I don't know how I would make my soap in my van.
Well, that would be, that's something. Obviously, you have those constraints. But yeah, I mean, as far as just a cheaper way, and you know, it's just good for the soul, really. I mean, for me, it was amazing. Those were some of the best years of my life. So, and I still like to do it. Just I don't do it professionally, so to speak. And by professionally, I don't do it full time. But
at the very least, I'm about to get solar panels and a fan put in my van. And at the very least, I'm gonna just travel for, you know, a week here, a weekend there. You know, I want to hit all the national parks. So that's why I'm interested in the RV life type deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I think somebody's mentioning about elites and how meat could be banned and stuff. Yeah, I mean, they're already banning gardening. So the idea that they won't try to ban personal consumption of meat that's, you know, locally grown, you know, that's a definite threat out there that we should definitely be looking at. And that's something that we should, you know, take very seriously if somebody's trying to tell us what we can and can't do as far as what we eat. So yeah, I think whoever made that concern, I think you really are onto something.
And yeah, and I want it just in case I gotta, like, you know, shit hits the fan. I want to get in my van and go somewhere, maybe go to Texas.
Well, no, I mean, as far as Florida goes, you guys are always getting hit with those, you know, crazy hurricanes because of all that global warming that's happening.
Yeah, that doesn't scare me at all.
Global freezing that's happening right now. I apologize. I don't know what day of the week it is. I don't know what day of the week it is, guys. So for those of you that are climate change, you know, enthusiasts, I'm not sure if it's warming or colding today. Sorry.
It hit 55 degrees down here, man. Sucks.
I know, right? It's crazy.
Turned me blue.
Bart K, I will eat anyone who tells me I can't eat meat. All right. Yes, sir. Understood.
Oh, you know what? Speaking of Bart K, hello, how are you? There's a philosopher woman, and I'm horrible at names, and I feel bad that I don't know her name. She's on YouTube. And she's a professor, and she has studied, not a philosopher, is it social archaeology, something like that. And she has studied, you know, thousands of years of cultures and peoples. And she says that during agriculture, like whenever there's agriculture, mass agriculture brought up in, you know, certain time periods and stuff, it usually lasts for several hundred years before everything dies out, and then the people turn to cannibals.
I think they're probably referring to what happened in Russia, what happened was the government basically vilified people that were farmers and stuff like that. This is obviously way before the agriculture that we have today, but they basically vilified it. Socialism, government controls the means of production. People started to starve.
That's just one example. She says this happens every few hundred years.
Big agriculture is horrible. I mean, you got to think you're going to poison the ground to the point where it's unusable, even as a sponge. You're going to talk about all this displacement of soil. I mean, what do you expect is going to happen? And then all the food's going to die. And what are you going to do? Especially, like, people really need to look at our population. Look how dependent we are on, you know, people as a whole. Going to the grocery store, like take an honest audit. Going to the grocery store to getting what happens if something happens and, you know, the farmers aren't able to produce the food, or what happens if the subsidies go away? Like, I hate to break it to you. This is what I tell vegans all the time, man. If you're vegan, like, honestly, Nick, everybody that's a vegan out there, like, think about it. The United States of America alone subsidizes big agriculture, plant agriculture, to over $40 billion. In 2019, it's going to be subsidized more than oil. At those prices, man, you should be able to get the food for fucking free. You know what I mean? Like, why are you paying higher and higher and higher and higher prices for produce when they're subsidizing it so much?
Well, to why is that?
System, why is that? Why do you tolerate that? You know what I mean? And so, yeah, there's going to come a point where this unsustainability is going to reach that tipping point. And for vegans that say that, you know, they're natural and this and that, I hate to break it to you, man. When those subsidies go away, you're going to have no food. You know who's going to have food? The people in this chat that are doers, that do things, you know what I mean? So, well,
like even in a like a natural disaster emergency, any type of emergency where shit's going to hit the fan, you're not going to have trucks coming into your town. Your food's going to run out. What are you going to do? I mean, you should at least, and first of all, women and men, just keep an extra 10, 20 pounds on your body, because you might have to live off that. Stop trying to get skinny.
Hey guys.
Yes, sir.
There's a question in the chat. I got a super chat. I feel obligated to read it. And you may have something to say about this, Janine. It goes, quote, I ate only beef, eggs, butter, salt, and coffee for a month. Had skin issues before, but now I have new skin issues. I had blood in my stool. Thoughts? Now, since you're the beautician, is it? Or what's the term?
Esthetician. Skin issues.
Well, to that, I would say you might have a dairy sensitivity, and you know it's kind of hard to speculate because
dairy sensitivity.
Yeah, like is it quality beef? I don't suppose grain finished beef would give you problems. You might have an egg allergy if you didn't eat a lot of eggs before. Butter could be an issue. Coffee, I don't know. It's kind of hard to speculate because A, I'm not an expert. B, we don't have a lot of detail here. But as far as blood in the stool, that could be a little bit of constipation there from, you know, because Well, let me explain. If you're going keto, your body's going to shed water. Obviously, this is only a month in, so maybe what's happening here is you're dehydrated, which will constipate you. Obviously, it doesn't matter what you're eating. If you're dehydrated, you might be getting constipated. So if you're going through like keto flu and shedding all this water, or just in general not getting enough water in because you're in
Did they say
ketosis,
they were eating salt? Did it say salt?
they do eat salt.
So
Yeah.
my question would be, are you eating fats with your meats? Are you eating raw dairy? Because pasteurized dairy is going to cause major problems. The body.
Skin issues, right?
Yes, pasteurized dairy causes skin issues and allergies. So I don't know what kind of skin issue. If you could list that really quick.
Yeah.
And more salt. And then maybe add. I don't know why you don't eat plants, but maybe add, because plants are. If I don't eat fruit, then I will get constipated. Like, eat just one piece of fruit just relieves that. And then I have, to be honest with you, now that I'm on this raw milk diet thing, I haven't needed fruit. So there's something with that, raw milk. So, but normally when I was eating like just a regular primal diet, I usually just eat some fruit just to relieve that constipation. It's very high in potassium and magnesium, the fruit, even just a little bit, and that relieved it. And it relieved my leg cramps as well. So, maybe fruit, definitely raw dairy, and some animal fats, butter, lard, the fat of the meat is going to relieve constipation as well.
Yeah, Bart K says blood in the stool needs referring to a physician. Yeah, I mean, if it's just a tiny bit, who knows? But yeah, if it's like chronic or it's happening, I would definitely go see a doctor too. I'm not qualified to like give advice or anything like that. But
did they say what the skin issue was?
No, but if you're listening, Grace and Rain, Bear, and you want to follow up that question with some more details, I'll be monitoring the chat and I'll read that out. But yeah, I mean, dairy, especially pasteurized, could cause issues in people. I know that much. And, this is only a month in. It's a transition period. Some people get diarrhea. Some people do get constipated when they just eat a ton of meat all of a sudden.
IBS.
And
maybe your baby steps,
your gut bacteria might also be adjusting to this completely different food now, so you might not be digesting meat as well as you can. I personally, if I were dealing with that and it is constipation or somewhat that, I would cook my meat less. If you could do raw, even better.
Absolutely, the fermented raw liver and the raw kefir, those are the best, like, digestive. The probiotics are so strong.
Exactly. You're changing your gut microbiome completely, and it might just take some time to adjust, I think. But, it could be a whole sort of different things we don't really know because we don't have much to go on. So if you feel like
Carnivore Life says, I got constipated early on Carnivore, and it was relieved with raw milk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seborrheic dermatitis, eczema, Kerrygold butter, organic beef, sometimes ate raw beef. Seborrheic dermatitis and eczema, it's a vitamin A. Like, usually I see that. Okay, can you add some lard possibly to your diet when you're cooking? Lard is very high in vitamin D3, which helps relieve skin issues, and you need vitamin A. May I suggest you eating some liver? Liver is really great for skin issues.
Cod liver oil, if you want to at least supplement temporarily.
I don't know much about cod liver oil, but if that's what you think.
Vitamin A, it has quite a bit of
vitamin A, right. Yeah. So you need vitamin A for skin issues.
Yeah.
Liver, guys.
Liver. Everybody should. Women should eat liver once a week. If you bleed every month, you need to eat liver once a week. It used to be the norm. Let me tell you a little story. I went to a specialty market. My farm ran out of liver, so I panicked. I went to a specialty market. I checked all the grocery stores in my area. Nothing. No freaking liver. I went to a specialty market. Drove across town. They had their beef counter was beautiful. Every single thing you can imagine under the sun was in this counter, except for, guess what? Liver. What happened? Liver used to be a staple dinner food back in the 70s and 80s. It used to be in restaurants. Now it's so hard to find, But I finally found it.
No, it's just consumerism, man. I mean, that's what it is. There's good things to it, and as we're seeing, with veganism, really bad things to it. So
she drinks lard from pigs. Tallow is from cow. Okay. Oh, I see. No, I don't know if she eats lard from pigs. Somebody else was responding. Lard is from pigs. I'm addicted to water. Drank a gallon a day for years. Okay, so Grayson Rain Bear says, the woman with the issue says, I'm addicted to water. Drank a gallon a day for years.
Yeah, it's too much water.
That's too much water.
When I was drinking a lot of water, it didn't matter what I was eating. I would get constipated. Not always, but once in a while. And then when I wean myself off this water addiction, and if I do drink water, it's mineral water, you know what I mean? And I up my salt.
Yeah, add some salt to the water. And Daphne says you're wearing out your kidneys, and I agree.
Yeah, like we're lied to. I'm convinced. I don't necessarily agree you shouldn't drink any water, but you know, like 8 glasses a day, that's a little ridiculous, you know what I mean? Especially
I don't even drink water. If you have to struggle to eat, like seriously, if you have to struggle to eat, to do something, to drink 8 glasses of water a day, and I always struggle, that's just doesn't seem normal to me.
A gallon of water, that's extreme.
Insanity. Maybe, and that is a theory. Like the water actually dehydrates you. The too much water dehydrates you. Maybe cut back on your water, add some salt to your water. Make sure you're getting lard, some liver for vitamin A, or cod liver oil. And what else? And if all else fails, eat a piece of fruit, an apple.
Yeah. And just realize the water that you're drinking in your tap has the acceptable amount of lead. So just keep that in mind.
Consider the water source. Absolutely.
This water has the acceptable amount of lead.
I agree with Daphne. I only drink it when I'm thirsty. I only drink water like if I'm like before I got sick, I was running on the beach, and that's when I would bring water. I don't drink water anymore. I just don't feel necessary. I drink milk. You know?
Yeah.
I'm not thirsty.
If I drink a liter of yogurt, for example, like I don't have to drink almost all day, and it's a meal in itself also. But if I were to drink a liter of water when I used to drink a lot of water, it would not quench my thirst nowhere near as much as a liter of yogurt, which is, I don't know, maybe 80% water or something like that. So a lot less water. A lot less water can actually hydrate you more if it has electrolytes in it. And yogurt has magnesium, sodium, a little bit, I think. And
if it is consider that. If it is a constipation issue, consider your magnesium. You know, are you getting enough magnesium in your foods? Yeah. You know, maybe definitely do raw dairy.
No, I think it's right. I just realized too that especially distilled water and stuff like that, a lot of bodybuilders drink it because it does, like you said about the dehydrating effect. I think that's a great
when you think about it, when we used to drink water out in nature, right? Not only did it have mass amounts of B12 in it, but washing over all these rocks and sand and stuff, it naturally had a lot of minerals in it also. So if we were drinking creek water, we were getting these electrolytes more than likely. So, and distilled water, where the hell would you have ever gotten that in nature, right? Dew or something like that?
You're right. You're right.
So,
but the circle squares that aliens have put upon us makes us not able to realize that because
I surrender.
Veganism.
I surrender. You owned me, bro.
I'm just throwing the facts out there. Jesus Christ. Okay. Oh my gosh.
Okay, Grayson Bear gets the water from a well.
Raw eggs too. I agree with Carnivore Life. I could go quite a while without water if I do consume raw eggs.
Never. I don't know. One day I'm gonna try the raw egg thing just to try it. I'll probably videotape it, and that's the last I'll try it because I think it's kind of gross texture. I like raw egg yolks, so. I'm not thirsty. The raw milk is the most satisfying food like you can even imagine.
Yeah, if you can handle it.
Yeah, if you can handle it.
I can.
But you know what? There's many types of raw milk, from camel to mare milk to goat milk, and they all have different levels of the different chemical property makeups of the milk. So some have higher sugars, some have different sugars. So if you have an allergy to one of the specific like the lactose, for example, or the milk proteins, the casein, different milks from different animals have different proteins and different sugars that you should definitely try before you give up completely. And actually, you can order a lot of these things online if you're desperate for milk, if you don't have it in your area. California has a camel farm, and they ship across the United States. And that's the least sustainable thing you would want to try. But if they don't have it in your area and you need that nutrition, and they say camel milk is the most nutritious milk, the highest fat. Just try different animal milks before you give up on raw milk. It's just such a superfood.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. We're not talking about your health here, right? We're talking about an ideology. Relax.
Oh, I'm sorry. I always go back to
no,
the
but isn't
health.
that crazy? Isn't that crazy that it's like, hey, your health, don't worry about that shit. You're fine.
Don't worry about that.
Eat more plants.
Yeah.
Your health isn't important.
Somebody was saying if rainwater is distilled, and now I don't know exactly, but I'll tell you my experience with the rainwater because I grow things, right? I could sit here watering my banana plants. Yes, I do eat bananas sometimes, and you know my garden.
Boy. I'm just
Hold on. I could like water the pasture all day, every day with like canal water, right? River water from the canal, and it'll do fine, no problems. But as soon as it rains, those banana plants, the day after, they will drop the flower, right? They will set fruit.
Wow.
The grass just like grows so much faster. And so I conducted a little experiment, and I caught some of the rainwater in a pot when it rained, and I drank it right away as it collected in the pot, and like it energized me. It gave me like all this energy all of a sudden. The world just seemed brighter, you know, if you will.
Wow.
So there's definitely something in rainwater. I don't know what it is exactly, but plants and apparently people respond to it favorably, and it's nothing like watering artificially.
That's pretty crazy.
And it's true. You water your garden so much, and then it never looks better than after a rain.
Yeah.
See, I've noticed the same thing too, and I always thought it was just because, you know, when the rain falls, like maybe it's something in the rainwater, but I know when rain falls, I know a lot of the the microbes in the ground, natural compost, worms, you know, all that stuff, they really become alive. And I don't know if that's something because of the effect that there's something in the water, or just, you know, how it trickles and stuff. But I know like worms and stuff come out and they really start digging holes, doing the aeration.
Yeah.
You know what it is? It's probably all the greenhouse gases getting trapped in the water and, you know, getting put back in the soil where
it could be.
Yeah, that's probably part of it.
Mother Nature.
Or they're getting broken down into, you know, whatever the hell they're made up of in the first place. I'm no chemist. Ask Bart.
As hard as we try, we can't replicate or beat Mother Nature. Can't trick her.
It looks like Nick Tristian's on. He said he would do a discussion with me. We just haven't set a time for it. I think that'd be cool. I watched his discussion that he had with you, Carnival, and I think that'd be something cool to do here real soon.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys want to set it up, even on my channel, I would have no problem.
Would you be willing to host it?
Yeah, I'll moderate her if need be. I don't think there would be, but
hey, Nick Nutrition TV. I'll do a discussion with you. It looks like Carnival's willing to host it. If you're down for that, we'll set a time, and all three of us will me and you'll have a talk, and Carnival will.
I'll keep you guys in line.
Yeah, and it's funny because you have the vegan, the majority plant-based guy, myself, and then we have the carnivore. So it's like we have the triad here. It should be interesting.
That should be interesting. Daphne says, and this is cool, a good point, rainwater has oxygen that your regular water isn't going to have. It's oxygenated.
I'm sure it has a lot more too.
A lot more, right?
Oh yeah, it's falling from the sky at thousands of feet.
Must be something magical up there in the sky.
God, it has God in it.
Yeah.
I knew this guy that was trying to sell me some kind of little turbine to put in my pipes, and he said it's going to put God in your water. And Bart
K wants in on it. Yes, sir. I've been wanting to talk to you too for a long time. I think that would be awesome. Me, Carnival, Bart K, and Nick Tristian. I think that'd be cool. What do you think, Carnival?
Well, Nick might have to find another vegan to kind of balance the scales.
Yeah,
but
he needs another vegan. Be fair.
Let's get Daphne.
Daphne.
Daphne's
twin sister.
She could try to subvert Nick. She knows the game. She knows how to talk to vegans.
Yeah, she does. Especially vegan men, isn't that right?
Frank is on. Frankie.
Frank is vegan. Oh shit. I knew it.
Yeah, he is.
Me, pick me.
I mean, shit. The more, the merrier. I mean,
I think it'd just be a shit show. That'd be great though.
Yeah, let's get Goji Man. I mean, come on.
There we go. That would be, gosh, wouldn't that be the?
No,
that would be literally.
that's too
That
much.
would literally be the discussion of the year.
It's too much.
And then as long as we see Tristan in the comment section keeping everybody honest, that'd make everybody's day.
Frank has to go. Bye, Frankie.
Yeah, make a video on rainwater. Tell us what's in there. We're all
That would be nice. That would be awesome.
Yeah, who knows, right? Who knows what's in there?
That's awesome. That is awesome. There was a question. I think it's going so fast I totally missed it. I think somebody asked a question.
I didn't know I could watch this.
I'm learning new stuff too.
Jesus.
The trans vegan question?
Oh shit, the chemtrails.
What's the trans? Yeah, was there a trans vegan question on there? What does that even mean?
What does that mean?
Explain to me what trans.
I mean, you eat meat, but you get all the benefits of.
But you can't call them
being
vegan. People get offended.
Yeah, you get all the benefits of being this SJW endangered species vegan, but you eat meat, so.
So I identify as vegan because I can't.
Exactly.
Got it. Well, if that's how you want to go about it, that's legit, I guess, huh? I mean, you can't say he's wrong, or else that's slander.
You go to prison.
Yeah.
Jade asked if it's true that it's banned in the USA collecting your own rainwater. In many states, it is true. In Florida, it's true, but Millennial knows more about that.
I can touch up a little bit on that, and this goes into the which I'm glad we have Carnival here because it goes into you have the legal answer and then you have the ethical answer, right? So in a lot of places, well, it's good. It's good, and I'm glad that you're there because we need that affirmation. But for example, in a lot of states, you can collect rainwater, but it can't be for personal consumption. You have to say this is not something that I'm going to consume myself. I'm going to it has to be. You basically say, yeah, it's for my animals, my dog, or it's for my garden, like.
Car wash.
That's okay. Yeah, but the second they can identifiably prove that you're using it for taking a shower or human consumption, it automatically becomes, a C felony, right? Or a misdemeanor. So that's something to look at. Another thing to look at too is like being disconnected from the grid. Florida's a great example of this, which blows my mind. The Sunshine State, for God's sakes. You can have all the solar you want. You can there's a lot of systems set up where you can run your house on solar and everything, but you still have to be connected to the grid. Being disconnected for the grid automatically becomes a whole nother can of worms. So depending where you're at, I would take a look at it. I haven't seen a state yet that says that you can't collect rainwater in some aspect. It just depends how you're using it, right? So that goes into its own gray area. Like if you were to have 200-gallon catchment system and you say, hey, this is for my garden. I've never seen anywhere where it says that's legal by city ordinance or state code. But if they find out that you're disconnected your water and you're using it exclusively, that's where you'll kind of run into the legal ramifications. And also HOAs. There are HOAs that say that you can't have an American flag, or you can't have a Puerto Rican flag, or you can't have a tomato plant outside your front of your house, and your car has to be of a certain aesthetic look. So you have federal laws, you have state laws, you have local laws, and you have HOA. So, goes into the ethics of it. Yeah, there's a lot of red tape you might have to look into before you do it. So I know that's kind of a not a great answer, but that's kind of unfortunately the world that we live in, which goes to, reinforce, Carnival's great ethical points that he brings up.
There's a woman in Florida, a famous story. She lives in the woods. Her husband died. She's a retired lady, and she didn't have enough money to support the house. So she had this land and built her little house. And she had 2 rainwater barrels and ran her whole house, garden, animals, everything, showers, drinking water on these 2 rainwater barrels. And when she got found out by the city or government, they told her she needs to hook up to the city water. And she refused, and they started finding her on a daily basis and shut her down because she was totally disconnected from a water system, the city water system. They shut her down. Pretty sad.
No, it's true, and that's and unfortunately, it's like with most things within law, it's all about intention and it's about all that stuff. So that's a good example. There's a lot, and I don't know why Florida seems to have a lot of these instances, but Yeah, I mean,
Florida.
they for one reason or another, they definitely are. You know, they're not very sustainability driven. That's for sure. But yeah, that's a great point, and that's totally true. So I would look into it. But as far as rain catchment system goes, I think everybody should have one. Even if you're not using it yourself, right? Wink, wink. I don't see why having some water on hand is a bad thing.
The raw milk is sold as pet food.
Right.
So we feed our pets. That's how so the raw milk is accessible but not legal in Florida, and that goes for many states. So just because your raw milk is illegal in your state doesn't mean you can't get it as
or buy it. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, if it's falling from the sky and it's falling on me, then I'm pretty sure it's mine.
Open your mouth.
Yeah.
You're right. But yeah, so that would be something that would be, you know, and yeah, it shouldn't be that way. So you mean, great point. Wish I had a better answer for you. But unfortunately, that's the legally bounding answer. That's not going to, you know, purposefully mislead you.
Well, but that's just the thing, you know, because once again, not to like beat a dead horse, but because the municipality or the state or whatever owns that land, they feel entitled to the water falling on it. Basically, is I think how it gets justified in the court of law. You know.
No, sure, absolutely. From government standpoint, absolutely right.
Yeah. So, not to say it's right, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. He needs to stop flexing. What? I missed something.
I don't think that's.
It's going so fast. No, yeah, it's going so fast. I can't even. Everybody types so fast. I'm such a slow reader. Gosh. But yeah, so I think this is pretty cool. I'll have to send an email to Nick Tricia, and do some cool stuff like that. And yeah, Bart K, we should definitely have it. You know, I definitely would love to talk to that guy. It's just because he's so. It's the accent, and he's just so smart.
Yeah, like you guys let me know.
Yeah, for sure.
We could do it on here whenever.
Yeah, that sounds great. Bart seems into it, and then I'm looking, and then Raymond or Ramen, I don't know how to pronounce it. I've been reading your stuff, dude. I think you're totally spot on. Good on you. I know I've seen him in a couple of your comment sections. He's always, you know, every time I see his comment, I'm like, yeah, that guy gets it.
He has a video, actually. I don't know if this.
Does he have a channel?
Right, yeah, I don't know if it's the right title, but if not, it should be something along the lines of like regular dude school's university professor.
Oh,
something
really?
along the like a quick little philosophical video. Maybe it was 2 minutes long, no more than that, but it was actually pretty profound. So yeah, go check it out.
Yeah, I'll check that out, man. Hey, is it Ramen or Raymond? I don't want to pronounce it wrong. I'll go check that out, man. I didn't know you had a channel.
Yeah.
Cool. Everybody coming together. Oh, Michelle Lowe. That lady. She doesn't like me. At all. I heard she loves Bart, though. I heard her and Bart are like best friends. Am I wrong, Bart?
God.
Secret lovers.
Nice.
No offense, Bart. I'm sorry.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Raymond's doing a video on blue zones. That'll be cool. I love the blue zones, naturally, of course.
Who's doing a video on blue zones?
Raymond is. He said he's doing one on the blue zones, so that'd be pretty cool.
I'm missing some comments. That's cool.
The comment section is probably scared of you because you're a strong, independent carnist.
Hey, I just added some meat to my deficient diets.
Right.
Trying to eat like a normal human.
So here's another question. Like, so I know a lot of vegans have pets, right? And they feed their pets pet food. Does that kind of go against everything they like? Are they still allowed to virtue signal if they do that? It's just a quick question I had.
Well, I hope they feed their pets some non-vegan pet food.
Millennial.
Right,
Vegans are always right, okay?
But, you know, that's just another thing I wanted to mention.
On everything.
Yeah, they justify. Like, I saw Joey Carbstrong. I watched his full debate after Carnival. You said you couldn't watch it, and I was like, okay, great. Like, let me. I think I was at the gym and I was listening to it. He's so dumb right now. So I was listening to it, and he was talking about how he was saying, it's he ethically justified having pets and feeding pets just because of the fact that it's better than that's the more vegan solution than killing them. And it's like, so it's okay to feed pets, animal-based food because they need it.
As long as you starve,
but as long as it's not for
the animal on the vegan
it's okay
diet.
for an animal, but it's not okay for a human.
Yeah,
really?
As long as you starve the animal on the vegan diet, it's not animal abuse. Okay.
No, and a lot of vegans think it's okay to feed cats and dogs meat.
Of course it is.
Feed it to humans though, because that becomes unethical.
Oh, meat? No, you can't feed your animal meat. You have to starve it.
You know what the argument on that is? You know what the thing is about that? Is they say animals have no morals. That's why they rape each other. That's why they eat each other. I've heard that many times. Animals have no morals and animals have no ethics. So they rape and eat each other. That's why they do it. Because people say, well, how come lions eat other animals? Every animal eats other animals. Oh, they have no ethics.
Because they're hungry and they need to. And the same goes for us. Like, as far as animals, feeding your pets, like cats and dogs, a vegan diet, look, you can do it, and the dog will survive for a certain amount of time. The cat will survive okay for a period of time. But, and this is another controlled experiment that I conducted. I sold one of, I feel bad about it anyway, but one of our puppies we sold to one of our neighbors, and we kept one, right? They were brothers, and ours was fed on a high meat diet, or a lot of meat, basically, other things as well, but mostly meat, a lot of it raw. And their dog was just fed table scraps and like corn and rice and that type of stuff. Our dog turned out to be 90 pounds. Their dog, my dog's brother, didn't look like the same breed of dog, and it was maybe half the size. So yeah, you can starve your dog on a vegan diet if you want, but don't call yourself vegan, okay? Don't, please. Oh, what?
That's horrible. I'm sorry, I had my mic off. That's horrible.
No, like it was literally half the size. The head was like really narrow. My dog is a bulldog mixed with an American Staffordshire, so they have that blocky head. The other dog's head looked like a rat's head. Like, it was profound. Like, obviously its brain didn't grow to its full, genetically programmed size because it didn't get ask Frank Tufano, fat soluble vitamins.
I mean, that dog's bone mass, like, gosh. That's going to destroy its lifespan. Like, that's abuse.
The dog is dead. My dog is 3 years old, just turned the other day. That dog's been dead for. That's why I feel bad about it. But it's been dead for like a year and a half. So.
Why did he die so young? He was only 2.
He was just weak, and maybe he ate something bad. Maybe he got poisoned. I'm not sure, but it just was weak. And if you got a weak dog here. There's like this tick-borne blood disease. There's all kinds of bugs that could infect you with all kinds of stuff. Your immune system is compromised. You're just gonna die.
That's ridiculous. Even I have a little dog, and he eats a lot of meat, and we don't have to buy food at the grocery store, man. Like, if you guys ever watch, you look at my, I kind of show me making dog food. I make dog food for my dog just because it's super easy to do. You know what I mean? Yeah. And yeah, he's an old guy, man.
They do far better the more meat you give them. Like, their coat improves. They might have dandruff that goes away. You'll notice one of the first things you notice is that they wake up with like eye boogers. If you take the grain out their diet and put them on a diet that's rich in meat, that just goes away too. There's all these things. They behave better. You know what I mean?
What about the fleas? Like, I live in Florida, and my dogs don't have fleas, and I go for long walks every single day. My dogs go out, and we go for long walks. It's Florida summers, year after year after year. They used to have fleas, and then I started giving, and I don't even feed them a full meat diet because I can't afford it. So they have their regular kibble. And then I give them you see what in my videos, I just give them like a tablespoon size of meat or eggs or milk or whatever it is on a daily basis. They do not have fleas or worms, and they're full health.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but like fleas or worms rather, if your dog is starving, even though it might be fat, but it's not getting the right nutrients, so it is starving, it might just run around eating shit, or stuff like that, and it'll get parasites that way. But as far as the fleas go, I have no clue.
I was surprised. I didn't even notice it until a couple of years. I'm like, wait a minute, my dogs don't have fleas, and fleas are always a problem in Florida. It doesn't even matter. Even when you put that, because I used to, years ago, my dogs put the flea medication on them, and they still get fleas. So you have to keep changing the medication. It's toxic. I don't do vets or doctors anymore, but I just feed them. I feed them. I read a story about entrails, about how a farmer had a pile of entrails always in one section of his farm, and his dogs would just go out there and snack on the entrails all the time. Is when he noticed his dogs no longer have fleas when they started doing that. The fleas are a parasite. They won't, if your dogs are healthy enough, they'll rather get a sick animal. You know what I'm saying? They can't survive on a healthy animal or something like that. But all I know is my 4 years going on now, my dogs have not had fleas in Florida.
Well, maybe there's something to it. I'm not really sure. I know. Well, this is gonna sound weird. And for anybody that's kind of been to the Middle East, American tobacco, like chewing tobacco, like if you look at a lot of the insects that are there, they, you ask any service member that's been over there that uses chewing tobacco, they usually don't have those problems because American chewing tobacco is something that those animals don't like necessarily. So, I mean, I know animals are sensitive to, and pests and fleas are sensitive to certain kinds of, things in the body. I've heard everything from garlic to onion and stuff. I know for my gardens, I put in the four corners, I put mint. I grow mint in the four corners of my grow bed, and I really don't have, and that's my natural, pesticide, if you will, and I don't have the problems that a lot of other gardeners have because of where I put the mint in the grow bed. So yeah, there's a lot of natural, that a lot of people don't realize that nature, it has a balance and it takes care of itself. So just something else to think about.
Nutrition says it's not healthy not to fart.
Because Dr. Greger says so?
I don't know.
It's not
healthy not to fart.
Well, I mean, if your diet it's, all plants and you're having gas problems, yeah, I mean, if you don't, he'll explode.
Yeah, right. If you need to fart.
Yeah, don't.
Would you believe it's possible that you don't need to fart anymore?
I think it's just the things that vegans say, man. I don't get it.
It's funny. It's just funny. I just thought it's funny.
Oh, now he's talking about
healthy gut is healthy farts. Stop.
That's nonsense. It's just nonsense.
Here we go, gut mic. The vegan talking about gut mic. Wow. See, that's a real thing. I'll be looking forward to having a conversation with him.
We know so little about the gut microbiome.
I know. I'm just, it's not fair for me to.
We know more about the moon than we do about the gut microbiome. The bottom of the ocean, we've explored much better than the gut microbiome. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like, name these bacteria that I need. Name it and prove to me that.
But before you name it, I'm going to put pesticide-ridden food in my body. Yeah. That'll help with gut microbe.
Yeah.
That'll teach them. Like, come on. Gosh. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it is what it is. That's okay.
Yeah, I feel,
intimidated, right?
Feel alive. Well, no, you know how you feel alive because it hurts so good?
Yeah.
I'll listen to people who actually study gut health and not you guys. You're right. I totally get it. Goji man. What was I thinking? Right? Like that guy, he just.
Goji man admits that too much fiber is bad for you. He admits that some people don't possess the genetic adaptation to be able to consume a lot of oxalates. He admits that, vegans have gut issues. So, I mean, just because you can't read between the lines, why is that my problem? You know what I mean? Like, the guy is here to heal vegan guts. Why is his whole existence in YouTube to heal the vegan gut, because the vegan diet causes gut problems. How is this not logical? You know what I mean? Like, how is this so difficult to grasp? He found a market of vegans suffering from gut issues because of their diet. That's where gut issues come from. I'm not sure if you guys know this. And, you know, he's there to help them out and coach them through it and keep them just sick enough, but just healthy enough in order to stay employed. Like, am I not making any sense? Maybe. I don't know.
You're making too much sense.
You just had made a very good point. Goji Man is here to heal vegan guts. Okay, Goji Man is here to heal, to give advice on how to heal vegans. He has nothing to do with people who are not vegan, right? So we shouldn't even be like arguing with the guy, because it doesn't even apply to people that eat meat. His stuff. Is he trying to? Is he? I don't know. Does he try to turn people away or onto veganism, or is he just there for the vegans?
I think he's just there to make money. That's what I think, and you know, be a health practitioner. That's kind of how the medical system works, right? Keep the people just sick enough, but just healthy enough so they don't die too quickly, but cause all kinds of problems in their body in order to, you know, go in with the hammer and try to fix them surgically. So create a problem that you can't quite fix on the back end, but you'll be able to fix it well enough for them to, you know, come back for seconds and thirds and so on and so forth. I'm sorry, like, I don't mean to be conspiratorial, and I'm not saying it's necessarily that intentional, but that's kind of how the medical system works, right? We put a Band-Aid on everything, and while not going after the root cause of the problem, and that's how I see Goji Man. You know, the root cause is, again, too much fiber, too many oxalates, too much of a variety of plant foods, which isn't to say you shouldn't be eating some plants, obviously, but you overload your gut with the stuff that this is what's going on. You're trying to get the same nutritional density that you get from meat, but in order to do that with plants, and obviously it can't be done 100%, but in order to do that, you have to eat so much of these nutrient foods that aren't as nutrient dense, right? So you end up eating volume when your gut our stomachs are only about 1 liter. You see these people drinking one of their smoothies that's like 2-3 liters, and then eating a huge bowl you're just putting too much
amount of food. My food intake personally and my family has been cut down, but I swear, like, to 1/4.
You're overworking the gut to get the same amount of nutrition that you could get just by eating some meat also. So obviously you're going to overwork the gut, you're going to hurt it. And plants don't just contain vitamins and minerals, they also contain anti-nutrients and toxins. And we could handle some of the toxins, but again, you overload the gut with too much of that, you're going to have problems. And Goji Man knows this. If you listen to what he says and you read between the lines, he admits to all of this.
And the people are, you crushed it, by the way. And in the chat, people are saying that that vegans fail because they don't eat vegan right. It's like, okay, so and this I want anybody to challenge me. Anybody, even play devil's advocate for a second. If veganism is somehow this superior, this is it. We're doing it for number one. You can't be an ethical vegan in modern day 2019. You just can't. You can't show me one society that was ever vegan. You can't show me one crop zone where you can be 100% sustainably sustain yourself as a vegan. You know, like, there's so many flaws in this mindset, in this ideology. You can't be an ethical vegan. You really can't, you know, and you can't tell me in 2019, with access to the internet, with access to all these different people that have all this different literature on what to eat day in and day out, how are you going to sit here and tell me that they're doing it wrong? Like, how many people do you need? People that have dedicated their lives to going on Dr. Greger's site and eating his recipes word for word. Like,
how many gurus? How many nutritional gurus do you need to figure this shit out? I mean, YouTube is full of them. Everybody's giving advice on how to do it right, and no one's doing it right. It's like come the fuck out of here. Come on. It's just ridiculous. You have this huge support system, and you have all these gurus that are giving all this great advice on how to do it right, but somehow nobody seems to be able to manage this. And I'm sick and tired of this whole idea that, like, the SAD diet, and I'm not going to defend SAD, okay? But this idea that SAD diet is worse than veganism, to that I say, where's the proof? Because I see people going on the whole food, plant-based vegan diet failing within 6 months to a year. Some of them. I have yet to hear somebody say, I can't handle this SAD diet for 6 months. I think I'm going to do something else. You know what I mean? People literally end up in the hospital on the whole food, plant-based diet. And yes, the SAD diet will destroy you, but it'll take 30, 40 years, maybe just 20. I don't know. But so this idea that the SAD diet is automatically worse, I'm not buying it. Where's the evidence? I don't see it.
Yeah, and that's where we, and that's where we obviously differ in our diet. Not that I'm on the SAD diet, but I do eat a lot of whole food plant-based products. But the similarities that me and you have is meat is super important, and the quality of that meat is super important, and where we get it is super important, and it's integral to our diets. And I can say that without equivocation.
Yeah, I mean, and I think for most people, the best idea, whether you want to look at the environment and overall health on average of the entire population, I think the best solution probably is just a whole foods omnivorous diet. Because I'm not so sure we could feed the whole world on carnivore. Maybe, but like we're not all the same. And some people do just fine on veggies, and maybe some people need them. I don't know. So as long as it's whole foods and you get a good balance, not that I really promote the balanced diet or any diet for that matter, but if I have to paint our populations with broad strokes, that's probably the best solution. Whole foods definitely, with definitely at least some animal products in there.
Yeah, and it's just, you're absolutely right. And it comes down to what you've said and what I've said. We don't care. I don't care if you're a vegan. I don't care if you're a carnist. I feel like you come from the same, you've said it, you come from the same level of thought. It's this attacking people and this virtue signaling that I'm going to call you out on, because there's no proof. Like, all these vegans can say, they can keep saying, I do it for the animals. No, you don't. If you're not growing your own food, you're definitely not doing it for the animals. You can give two shits about the animals. You really do, and then I had somebody talk to me about this intentional harm versus unintentional harm. And I'm like, so explain to me the unintentional harm of poisoning animals. Tell me the unintentional harm of literally making child slaves. Tell me the unintentional harm of going to a country or going to the United States, buying the permits to destroy environment that sentient animals live. Like, what part of that is unintentional?
Do you have peer-reviewed studies to prove that what you just said is true?
I absolutely do. I have lots of them, and I always post them.
Okay, fact.
Right? I do, because it's there, and their Nick goes, it's not practical for everyone to grow their own food. That's reality. That's totally fake. It's totally false. If you have a closet, you can grow all the microgreens you need for your diet. If you have a patio, like it's there. Locals there.
And do one thing.
Exactly.
If you that's how
sorry, go ahead, girl.
Like, if you can do one thing, if you can keep bees to get your honey, or if you can, you grow herbs for your spices, and just do one thing. It starts at home. And one thing, you manage one thing, you get on top of that, it's easy, then you move on to the next thing. It starts at home, sustainability.
Yeah. How did we used to do it? You know what I mean? That's exactly how it was done.
Everybody had a cow in their front yard.
Yeah.
Or a goat. Everybody used to have a cow or a goat in their front yard. Everybody were farmer. Everybody was their own farmer.
Yeah, I mean, people don't realize, like, having an animal, how much you could supplement your diet with just having one animal, and it can be done in the city. I know people in Oakland, California, who have goats in their backyard, and like they'll rent them out to trim people's lawns and shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, where there's a will, there's a way, basically.
No, you're so right, and it's just, I don't know how. Like I said, it's nonsensical. It really is. And at the end of the day, like, I know I can say this. I know Siren, and you can say it. Like, the fact that you're vegan and you have more of a detrimental impact to the environment, and you hurt way more animals than people like us that eat animals, that should make you rethink your own ideology. You know what I mean? That should make you really rethink, well, what is it that I'm really doing for the environment? What am I really supporting here? What am I really, because the most environmental people that are cognizant of their actions, I feel like, are carnists. Every carnist that I've met so far, they care about where their food comes from. And that sounds crazy, right? Like, they actually care about, the process in which, their food is made and what's in it, Look, I mean, you, Tristan, like, you guys grow your own food. I grow my own food, Siren does everything local. It's like, we care about what's happening. Vegans don't.
Yeah, of course. And I was listening to Homegrown Big. I would love to have him on the Hangout, but he seems like a busy man. But anyway, he was getting into, as a punk rocker, getting into veganism maybe, I want to say 15 years ago, when it was first kind of exploding, maybe second wave veganism, whatever. And at that time, he says veganism wasn't exclusively about lessening animal suffering. It was more of an environmentalist movement. And if you weren't being environmentally friendly, you were hurting the animals, basically. So it was all about the environment first and foremost, and as a result of being responsible and environmentally friendly, you would lessen animal suffering. So if you're doing something that's not animal friendly, you're not, or environmentally friendly, like veganism today, you're not, you couldn't call yourself a vegan back then if you were, buying your little 10 ounces of lettuce in a pound of plastic at Trader Joe's. That's not veganism.
Exactly. God, you hit the nail on the head. Like the fact that vegans don't get that. Like I go on all these vegan channels and I ask them, like, I'll start a conversation, they get all upset, everybody jumps on me, and then I say, okay, you can be angry at me, just admit that big agriculture is bad. It's not going to take away from you being vegan. Just say it's bad.
Yeah.
They can't do it, they won't do it. And it's like, well, if you can't say that big agriculture is bad, plant and animal, if you can't say that there's problems with it, you know what I mean? Like, no system's perfect. I'm not saying it is, but the fact that they can't say that big plant agriculture isn't bad, that tells you everything you need to know about their ethics.
All these explanations, any way you slice it, they start with this presupposition that plants good, meat bad, and from that follows everything else. So it's not logical, it's ideological. You have this idea, right? Meat bad, plants good, and you explain everything after you establish this presupposition that you never proved in the first place. So it's nonsense. It's completely and utter nonsense. There's no logical basis for the veganism the way it exists right now, currently in the mainstream. It's just, sell us more garbage, basically.
Exactly. Jack Jackson, I guess, is putting Siren on the hot burner here. He's talking about why do people faint, or why do people feel like they have to faint when a needle goes to their arm. So I was a flight medic in the military, and the reason why a lot of people pass out.
Me too, I was a medic in the military. Oh my God.
Yeah, we were both. Yeah, you were both.
Cool.
Medics. So the reason why that is, Jack Jackson, is because the body has an automatic response, the whole flight and fight response. So when people see blood leaving their body, or they perceive that their blood is leaving their body, they pass out as a safety mechanism, because your heart rate drops when you're unconscious. So does your blood pressure. So if you have a needle in your arm, like anybody that's done this, if you have a needle in your arm and they're taking blood and you pass out, the amount of blood that will continue to pump into that bag greatly reduces. So it's a way for the body to keep as much of the blood in the body as possible by decreasing the heart rate and decreasing the blood pressure. So that's just a quick answer for you, because as we all know, blood pressure is represented in millimeters of mercury, which is a pressure. Just quick fact.
I actually have a fear of needles, and I've done many IVs in the Army. I have no problem handling a very bloody situation, but I do not want a needle inserted into my body because it's invasive, it's unnatural. I need my blood. It's like death to me. That's just my feelings, and that's how a lot of people feel. So that's just my natural feeling, and I have a reason for it. I've worked very closely with doctors and in hospitals, and I see what goes on there. And no, you're staying 10 foot away from me with that needle. And so Jack Jackson says, oh, so computers aren't natural, but they don't make people faint. So I told him if it was shoved up his ass, it would make him faint. So now he's laughing at me.
Probably anything that would cause his body to have a response of loss, hemorrhagic shock. Yeah, that would be a natural reaction, scientifically speaking. Is that nerdy enough for you?
I like that, the physiological explanation.
Well, there you go. Just keeping it real, because we believe in science here, right?
Jackson.
It's called butt hurt on the street.
It's called butt hurt.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But we got to be careful with all this science. We might start making too much sense, so we might need to knock that off.
Yeah. But hey, you guys, I'm like way behind on my chores here, so
I gotta pee.
I'm having lots of fun, but I think the time has come to peace out.
Sounds good, and we'll keep in touch with Nutrition, and we'll set something up, bro.
Yeah, totally.
Can't wait for that. I will be listening.
Thanks, guys, for an awesome
And in the chat.
conversation.
Yeah, you guys are great.
I love you guys.
Yeah, thank you, everybody, for showing up, chatting it up, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Sounds good, guys. Take it easy.